Hey y'all, how's it going? Court just got back from lunch and we're going to start with the cross-examination of Sarah Zachary. And remember, her testimony is important because the defense is trying to accuse her of possibly being the one who got rid of some very important evidence. Now, since they went through her testimony, I feel like it's pretty weak, but the cross-examination is going to happen. We'll see what goes on with that. And then afterwards, we're going to have Joel Souza, the director of Rust, who was shot. He's going to testify next, and then we'll have some other people that were on the Rust movie set. But I hope you guys are having a great Friday. Hello, how are you doing today? We're going to play catch-up. We're going to go through Sarah Zachary's, I want to go through her entire cross-examination, and then for Joel Souza, we'll hop around to the parts where he talks about the incident, and then how he hired Hannah and all that stuff. So, what did I say, Hannah? Hi, Aileen. Hi, Tina. Hi, Taxi. How are you doing today? We are dual streaming on Twitch and on YouTube. Thanks for joining me, whichever platform that you're on. I hope you guys are having a great one. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. It's a Friday. Hopefully the judge will let us out early. I don't know. Last time she let us out like two hours early, I think. 2-3 hours early. So maybe she should do that for today. Hi, DV. How are you doing today? All right. The cross-examination of Sarah Zachary. Let's go.
Cooperate with the state. Is that true?
Yes.
And you agreed to come in and testify against Ms. Gutierrez-Reed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as part of that, you entered into a cooperation agreement with the state. Is that right?
Yes.
And that cooperation agreement indicates that if you agree to testify.
Oh, also, I'm wondering, will Seth Kennedy go today? I was really excited for Seth Kennedy to go and testify, but I feel like at this point, not really. The defense, they were trying to say that, oh, it was Seth Kennedy was the one who provided the live ammunition, and Seth Kennedy and Sarah, they were texting after the shooting and they were trying to get rid of the evidence. But I mean, honestly, I think it's just a defense theory. I feel like, I mean, when they go, they better have something big to support this, but I don't know. It just seems really, really weak right now.
And you have to provide truthful testimony that you will not be prosecuted for any crime. Is that right?
Yes.
So, as part of your being here, you have a complete immunity from being prosecuted, correct?
I guess.
Well,
Can you speak up, please?
Yes. Sorry, I'm closer.
it's okay. Is that better? Hey, is that your understanding of the document that you have that you're not going to be prosecuted, correct?
Yes.
How's the audio? Good?
Now, you testified yesterday that you had, as far as the props roles, you were Hannah's boss in that role. Is that right?
I wouldn't say boss, I guess a supervisor. What I said goes with props.
And Hannah was a props assistant, correct?
Part-time.
Okay. And she was also a part-time armor?
Full-time.
It's funny. I feel like the part-time armor thing is like the defense's favorite buzz. We're like, oh, she was a part-time armor. It seems like she was a full-time armor, but she also had additional duties in assisting the props department. But I feel like with the defense throwing the buzzword part-time armor around, it makes it look like, oh, she was only like partially an armor and not really. But it seems like, no, her main job was an armor. And then additional to that, she was assisting the prop stuff. But I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to word it in a way where it sounds like it's through their benefit to the jury.
Your understanding she was part-time props and full-time armor?
Armor was her main duty, yes.
Hi, Wigu.
Okay, but she was also doing props as well, correct?
When there was no firing of any guns, yes.
Well, didn't you ask her on several occasions, for example, to do things like rolling cowboy cigarettes?
That was one day.
Well, you asked her to prop up other characters at times, right?
The only props that other characters had were the guns.
Hi, Ben, Leela,
They didn't
Rhiannon.
have their belts,
Well, yeah, they had belts.
and they didn't have, for example, glasses or other items that they needed to have on them?
What type of glasses are you talking about?
Anything you'd have in a Western movie, hats, glasses, they didn't have other props?
Those are wardrobe.
Okay, what other props were there with regard to these actors besides firearms?
There were very miscellaneous things depending on the scene. There was a day where we were in a saloon. There were
This case is so cool because I feel like we're learning so much about the movie industry and like the behind the scenes stuff. It's like, interesting.
whiskey glasses. There were rolled cigarettes.
Howdy.
There were poker sets, those kind of things.
And those props had to be provided to those actors, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also testified that you had some armor duties, correct?
Correct.
And so you were in that role assisting Ms. Gutierrez-Reed, right?
Correct.
And as part of that, you loaded and unloaded guns on the set?
Correct.
Now, you were
Hero?
trained, I think you said, by Seth Kennedy on a prior film.
Yes.
How much training did you receive from Seth Kennedy?
I had maybe 10 days to prep for that set, so within that amount of time, when I would meet him, he would show me how to work with the guns and ammo.
So did you
Iris?
feel proficient, very good in working with guns and ammo?
In what I was using, yes.
Were you, I think you said in the past, and you can tell me if you disagree, that you were not able to tell a dummy round from a live round?
I don't recall saying that.
Now, yesterday you testified that you weren't familiar with the single action revolver. Is that right?
Hi, Rain.
I didn't say, or are you talking about when I entered or started Rust?
Yes.
Yes.
And so, as we sit here today, do you know the difference between a single action and a double action?
Yes, now I do.
Okay, and what is that difference?
Well, what we were using on Rust, between the two, it involves how you load them and unload them, from my
What is
understanding.
the difference in functional characteristics between a single action and a double action?
So with the single action revolver, I believe that's what we were working on with Rust. That was with cocking the hammer back and the trigger at the same time to load and unload the cylinder, whereas with the double action, that the cylinder flips out.
The cylinder flips out.
Sorry, the cylinder comes out on the side to load the revolver and closes back.
Before Rust, had you worked with a single action type revolver?
No.
So on the prior set with Mr. Kinney, he had just shown you a double action?
Yes.
Okay.
Gotta pull on YouTube.
With yourself and Mrs. Gutierrez-Reed, you also had Nicole Montoya helping, is that right?
Correct.
And Nicole Montoya was also a props assistant, is that right?
Yes.
Now, I think you said yesterday that you knew that there was going to be an armor and an armor's assistant. Did you say that?
I knew that Hannah was going to act as both.
Okay. Was it your understanding that on this film that there was supposed to be an armor and an armor's assistant at first?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to your armor duties, we know that you loaded and unloaded weapons. Did you also take those at times to the actors?
Yes.
And I think we saw a video yesterday where, and see if you remember the scene, Mr. Baldwin is coming out of a little structure. He's shooting towards the cameras up at the blank round. He runs up the hill with the child actor, and then he gets, and somebody yells cut, and he still shoots, and then he cusses. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
And
This is Hannah's assistant. It seems like they were helping each other. So she's the prop master, and technically, armorer falls under prop master. So, like in a hierarchical sense, it's kind of like she's a supervisor, but it seems like they were both working in the role, kind of like side by side. So she's the props person, and Hannah would assist her with the prop stuff, and then Hannah was the armorer person, and then she would also assist Hannah with the props, with the armor stuff as well. So they were kind of just like assisting each other.
it appeared, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were on that video running towards Mr. Baldwin after he shot. Is that what happened?
I'd have to see the video.
Okay. I bet you don't recollect it right now as we sit here.
Not at the moment.
Okay. On how many occasions did you yourself take firearms to actors?
Whenever Hannah needed it.
Okay. When she needed assistance?
Yes.
Okay. You were working under Seth Kinney's license, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's with PDQ Props?
Correct.
And as part of that, are you on his paperwork as being an employee?
I believe so.
And so you weren't actually working physically at his business, but you were on the paperwork, you were working with PDQ Props. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, more trial talk.
Now, yesterday you indicated that first you said that you had thrown away the revolvers, but that was just you just got ahead of yourself. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. In reality, what you did is you threw away rounds from 2 revolvers. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was right. That was after the shooting, correct?
Yes.
Now, after the shooting, do you recall how many minutes went by, just roughly, before you threw away those rounds?
I don't recall.
In that time frame, you also had a conversation with Seth Kinney, correct?
Yes.
And on that conversation, you had texted him previously before that and said emergency?
After the incident, yes.
See, this is the defense's time to shine and to really show that she was involved in something very shady. And I feel like they just fall really, I don't know, they just fall flat. They just do. I so far, I just don't believe the Seth Kinney and the Sarah Zachary thing. That it was him that provided the ammunition. They were in collusion together, and she threw away the ammo and blah, 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 blah. Like, I just feel like there isn't that much evidence to support that. Meanwhile, there's like a shitload of evidence to support that Hannah was the one who was in the wrongdoing. Hannah was the one that possibly provided the ammunition. Hannah's the one who was at fault for the death and for the injury of another person. there's just so much evidence that supports that. And there's like the only evidence that supports the theory about Seth, her and Seth Kenny was that she was the one who admitted to throwing the dummy bullets away. And she does give a pretty dumb excuse. I do admit to that. But I fully believe her when she says like she did it because she panicked. It was like a really fucking stupid thing and she really shouldn't have done it. But I believe her on that part. But I just feel like there isn't much evidence to support the defense's theory. But like I said, you know, maybe when they go, they're going to have some witnesses that go up there and they're going to testify and maybe we'll do a 180. But I just feel like I'm just not feeling it. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Not feeling it.
And then you all talked, and do you recall him giving you any instruction or advice as to what you were calling about? And don't tell what he said, but do you recall him giving you any information?
No.
Okay. So do you recall anything from that phone call? Again, not telling us what Mr. Kenny said, but do you recall anything from that phone call?
Yes.
What do you recall?
Just him mortified.
Okay. And don't talk about his words again, but just so your impression was he was mortified.
Yes.
Okay.
And not like this part really even matters, but it seems like if anything, Seth Kenny was more closer with Hannah Gutierrez because he was the one that recommended her to work on this Rust movie set. He also works with her dad. So I feel like if anything, he would be more closer to Hannah than to Sarah Zachary, who's only known for, I don't think they said they only known each other for like a couple of months. But I mean, like that part doesn't really matter anyways, really.
How long did that phone call last?
As I said yesterday, possibly 30 seconds, a minute.
So then in that time frame, you then throw rounds away from the 2 revolvers that you had previously loaded, right?
I believe so, yes.
So the 2 revolvers that you loaded, again, were the Jensen Ackles revolver, right? Mm-hmm. And then this Sven?
Swen.
Swen. How do you say his name?
Swen.
Okay, Swen. So those 2 revolvers, you threw the rounds away from.
Yes.
And you threw.
I think it would look worse if she was the one that loaded the ammunition into Alec Baldwin's gun. And then after the shooting, she went to Alex Baldwin's gun and then started throwing away the dummy rounds in there. That would be way more like, that does not look good, Sarah. Like, I think it's so bad that she did it to the other two people's guns. But this wasn't the gun that was like the one that shot Helena, right? It wasn't the one that like ended up with a bullet ending up in Joel Souza. Yeah, I don't know. It's like she did a really stupid fucking thing.
Threw them in a trash can.
Correct.
Now,
Yikes.
You didn't tell anybody at the scene that you had thrown those away, right?
I didn't tell anyone, but it was in a public place. If someone saw me, then yeah.
And that's what I wonder. I do wonder if someone saw her and was like, hey, by the way, law enforcement, Sarah Zachary was throwing away dummies in the trash. I don't know if you guys ever asked her about that.
Well, you didn't want to let anybody know that, did you?
They weren't the rounds in question, so I didn't think it mattered. And I
Hi, Cassandra.
Well, you knew that
Sorry.
The rounds in
you didn't want to let anybody know that, did you?
they weren't the rounds in question, so I didn't think it mattered. And I had honestly forgotten.
Well, you knew that somebody had been shot. At least one person had been shot, correct?
Correct.
You knew that 911 had been called, is that right?
I didn't hear anybody call 911, but I had assumed.
And you would have assumed that the police would have to respond to a shooting, correct?
Sure.
And so as part of that, wouldn't you think that the police would want to see everything on set?
Yes.
So when you throw away rounds that they may have wanted to see, don't you understand that to be an issue?
No, because again, it wasn't the rounds in question.
But that isn't your determination, right, to determine what's in question. That is the law enforcement's determination, correct?
Okay.
Well, would you agree with me on that?
Sure.
Okay. So law enforcement's going to come and you understand they're going to investigate what happened, and the rounds that you're throwing away could be possible evidence that would assist them. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
And so when you made that decision, was that in fact Mr. Kenny directing?
And then also, if she was trying to throw away the live ammunition, why did they still find them on the cart? Remember, according to Hannah was like, she emptied out the gun, she gave it to Sarah Zachary, and then told Sarah Zachary to check the fucking box. That's what she said, right? We don't know if it's true or not. That's what she said. And so she was like, yeah, Sarah Zachary came back and was like, oh my God, more than half of them were bad ones. Why wouldn't that be the opportunity again for Sarah Zachary to throw away the live ammunition? If she really thought it was her fault, and if she was doing it under the direction of Seth Kenny, wouldn't they just throw away the other ammunition? She went through the box. There's ammunition there. Wouldn't that have been another opportunity for her to take those and throw them away if she was really trying to hide it? That's why to me it doesn't make sense.
you to do something?
No.
And that's going by Hannah's story, okay? That's Hannah's story. Hannah said that she was the one who directed Sarah Zachary to go check the box.
You threw
Hey,
away
Nico.
those rounds and the 2 revolvers that you loaded. Was it your intention to get rid of the evidence that you had done? In other words, the 2 you had loaded?
No.
Now, you also, as I understand, took firearms, or you and a couple other people intended to take firearms to the prop truck. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I guess, like, okay, so I know he's trying to do his job, right? He's trying to plant like reasonable doubt in the minds of the juror. But I feel like as the defendant, if I was Hannah, I don't know. I would just feel like I'd be so ashamed of myself. Like, you're clearly responsible. I mean, I know you don't want to take responsibility for it, I guess. But, you know, to have your lawyer to fish around and start pointing fingers at other people when it really does seem like it's your fucking fault. Like, I don't know, man. I would feel so ashamed just like sitting there. And I get it. The attorney, he's doing his fucking job. But as the person who's sitting next to him, you know, I don't know. I would just feel really fucking bad. Because now, like, you know, there might be some doubts where people are looking at Sarah Zachary now. And some doubts when people are like looking at Seth Kenny. But really, at the end of the day, it seems like the fault is really with Hannah. But, you know, I don't know.
And did you take revolvers? Did you take long guns? Do you
That's how
recall?
trials work, I guess.
It was whatever was on the cart, but I didn't end up taking them back.
You and who was it? Was it Daniel and Nicole?
Correct.
Who's
And
Daniel?
so the 3 of you started out to take the firearms from the prop cart to the prop truck. Is that right?
Yes.
How many firearms were there that you were taking back?
I believe from a separate interview, I had said something around 9.
So all 9 of those firearms, were those Seth Kenny's firearms?
I believe so.
All 9 you all wanted to take back to the prop truck. You were removing them from the prop cart right after the shooting, correct?
Yes,
You said you didn't take them back, but did you start with them to start taking them back?
I did.
And what made you turn around then?
I got a text message or phone call from Brian Norvell, and he asked me to bring Hannah her personal bag.
Where was her personal bag?
I believe on the cart.
So you then removed the personal bag from the cart and took that, I'm sorry?
Correct.
Okay. And then who did you take that to?
To Hannah.
When you took it to Hannah, her personal bag from the cart, where was she located when you gave that to her?
She was with Brian behind one of the houses in the town.
So we have the church, we've seen the church, and we've seen where that was located. Where was the house where Brian and Hannah were staying at that time?
It was down the hill a little northeast of the church.
Did you know why Brian and Hannah were standing over there after the shooting, over by the house?
It was my understanding that Brian was consoling Hannah.
Okay. So in any event, you walked her personal bag from the cart all the way to where they were at.
Yes.
Okay. And that was at Brian Norvell's direction.
Yes.
So you would agree with me, at that point, you didn't have it, I mean, that was somebody else telling you to do something.
Yes.
Okay. But, and it's not your fault on that one, but in terms of taking that bag, I'm not trying to say that. But would you agree with me that that then took something from the prop cart as well?
Sure.
At that moment, okay. And again, this is before law enforcement has arrived?
I believe so, but I don't remember.
Okay. Now, yesterday you said that you had thrown away the rounds in a state of shock and panic. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Now, did you previously state that you had thrown them away because you had done that before?
That I have thrown away dummies before.
Okay. So in your pretrial interview, you mentioned that part of the reason you threw those away was that you had done that before after scenes, correct?
Sometimes, yes, if I didn't need them.
So would you agree with me? You've given 2 explanations for why you threw away the rounds, in a shock and panic, and that you had previously done something like that, throwing away rounds. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
Are these dummy rounds? These are obviously reusable, aren't they?
They are.
So when you throw them away, somebody has paid for those, like production or, production. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Did they production instruct you to throw those rounds away after scenes?
No.
So this is their property. Would you agree with me? The dummy rounds?
I mean, you throw away blanks afterwards too.
Well, if blanks can be reused again, wouldn't you agree with me that those are something that the set could use again, that they purchased?
Blanks can't be reused.
Okay, well then, how about dummies?
Sure.
Okay. So again, my question was, would you agree that that's their property that you're throwing away?
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, this is the only part that I think it makes her look bad, but I don't think it's like that significant because there's not a lot of evidence supporting the defense's claim.
So you made the decision to throw away the rounds, and you then interviewed with the police on October 21st. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And that was the same day?
Yes.
And do you recall whether you told them that you had thrown away those rounds?
I don't recall if I did or not.
Did you tell anybody else that you had thrown away those rounds?
I believe Nicole was standing there when they happened, so I'm sure she saw.
Okay.
Oh, right. Because I think it's my understanding that Sarah Zachary, she mentioned that she was working for props on a movie set, and then all of a sudden the movie set couldn't get an armorer, so they just like made her become the armorer, and she's like, oh, I've never become an armorer before, and like I don't really have gun experience. I think Seth Kenny was the one who trained her for a bit, right? But yeah, I think previous to Russ, I think she was an armorer on a movie, and they kind of just like threw her that job.
After the shooting had happened, did Miss Gutierrez read, did you see the rounds that came out of the revolver?
She showed me, yes.
And did you see what happened to those rounds after she showed you?
No.
Did you take possession of the spent casing from Miss Gutierrez Reed?
I believe I might have. I know I had said that before.
Yes. And so Miss Gutierrez Reed hands you the spent casing, which is the one that's been fired, correct?
Yes.
And then what did you do with that spent casing?
I believe I took it over to the prop cart.
What happened to the other rounds that Miss Gutierrez Reed had shown you from that revolver?
I don't know.
Did you follow up to see what had happened with them?
No.
Okay. With regard to that live round after you put it on the cart, did you touch that again?
Touch the spent casing?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So you came back over, then did you go and check other rounds to determine whether you believed them to be live?
Yes, as I said yesterday, I did check the box that was on top of the cart.
Now there were multiple boxes on the cart, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And so did you rattle some of those rounds?
In the one box, yes, that was on top.
And you determined that you believed there were, I think there was a statement that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that you thought maybe half of them might be live?
That was an original statement, yes.
And in hindsight, do you think that's not correct?
As I said yesterday, I don't think that's correct.
Okay. But in any event, you determined that some of them were live in your belief.
Yes.
And who did you tell that to?
Law enforcement.
Okay. On the day of the shooting on October 21st, do you recall there being any safety meeting?
No.
That same
Oh, I guess how come he didn't ask? Oh, so like, we're accusing you of, throwing away the possible live ammunition that was coming from Seth Kenny. Why didn't you throw these away?
day, there's no safety
You
meeting.
had an opportunity to throw these away too. Why didn't you throw these away?
Do
These
you
live
remember
ammunition.
right before the incident in the church, did Hannah take the revolver to go check it with Dave Halls?
Yes.
You were not in the church, correct?
I was not.
And you were located outside. Where were you?
I was at the prop truck. Or not, sorry, prop cart.
Prep car. And your cart, was it to the right of the church?
When you're looking at the church at the front door, then yes, to the right of it.
Okay.
Also, in the interviews that we've seen so far and heard, we have not heard why Hannah did not stay in the church at all. She was just like, yeah, I left the church and I was just, was just hanging by the prop cart. And we're thinking, okay, well, maybe at some point she'll be like, oh, I wanted to stay at the church, but then they were demanding me to do something with the prop stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like she just kind of left out of her own volition and she just wasn't there.
The revolvers that you remove rounds from and threw them away, do you remember how many rounds were in them?
I do not.
Okay, so you're not able to tell us whether there were 6 or whether less, you don't know?
It's been 2.5 years, no.
Okay. But you did testify yesterday, you said that they were dummies.
Correct.
How did you know that?
I personally checked them.
And then you don't remember how many of them there were, though?
No.
When you interviewed with law enforcement, did they ask you for your phone?
On the day of?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Based on what I'm hearing so far, it doesn't seem like she treated Hannah as her underling, and it seems like Hannah didn't treat her like she was supervisor. It was kind of like they were just working side by side. But technically, hierarchical. What the fuck did I say earlier? Technically, in the hierarchy, because she's like the props master and the armor falls within her purview, it seems like she technically is the supervisor. But from what I've heard from everyone so far, it seems like they were just working side by side. But the reason why Hannah's defense team is like, oh, she's my supervisor. I guess trying to blame everything on her because, you know, it looks more worse when it's her supervisor that's plotting against you, trying to throw you under the bus, trying to use it as a scapegoat. You know, it just sounds better for the defense team. But it was my understanding that from what everyone has said so far, they were just working like side by side and they were just helping each other out.
You had been texting and talking to Seth Kenny, right?
Correct.
Had you been texting and talking to anybody else that day?
Just
hierarchical,
Hierarchical. Okay, that's a fucking hard ass word to pronounce. Okay, who can pronounce this word?
hierarchical,
Hierarchical. Hierarchical. Gurgling my mouth.
I don't.
Hate that
Kenny,
word.
right?
Correct.
Had you been texting and talking to anybody else that day?
Just I don't remember.
Okay. After the shooting, well, let me back up. Yesterday, I think you mentioned, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you wouldn't talk to Alec Baldwin much on that set. Is that fair?
I can say hierarchy. It's the hierarchical.
No.
Okay. Did you have Mr. Baldwin's cell phone number before the shooting?
No.
Did you ever text him before the shooting?
No.
Do you recall that you did text him after the shooting?
Yes.
And how did you get Mr. Baldwin's number?
His assistant had personally contacted me because I was in contact with him before while we were shooting, and he had requested to talk to me.
Okay, and so after the shooting, you and Mr. Baldwin, do you talk on the phone also?
Yes.
And you also text?
A couple times.
Do you recall making the statement on October 31st, 2021 that Alec called me and I'm trying to make sure I keep my facts straight?
Yes.
So I guess the angle that they're going here is that like, oh my God, you know, Alec Baldwin, Sarah Zachary, Seth Kenny, they're all like colluding together to go after Hannah and throw her under the bus. But remember, Alec Baldwin's initial statement to police on October 21st was that he had the gun handed to him by Hannah. That was his initial statement. And then later on, when he was doing his like interviews, I think he said it was Dave Halls that handed the gun to him. So I feel like if Alec Baldwin really wanted to go after Hannah Reed, it would have been more suspicious if in his initial interview he was like, oh, Dave Halls handed the gun to me. And then later on, months later, he was like, oh, no, it's actually Hannah Reed that handed the gun to me, right? I feel like that would make more sense if they were trying to throw her under the bus. But that's not what happened.
And do you recall you made that statement to Seth Kenny?
Yes.
How many calls, let's start with that, did you have with Alec Baldwin after the shooting?
Maybe 3.
And did you discuss the facts of what happened with him?
It was more theorizing because we both didn't know what happened. He mainly would call and ask questions that I didn't have answers to.
He was asking questions about the events and what might have happened, right?
Correct.
Did you ask him questions?
No.
You also texted with him several times. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall also making a statement on or about October 23rd, 2021, that you had talked to Alec and he's having a difficult time recalling things, like most of us, but he thinks that Dave handed him the gun?
I don't know who that was with.
If I showed you a text message, would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
May I approach you? Text.
Let me speed up a bit.
Making the statement that you had talked to Alec and he's having a difficult time recalling things like most of us, but he thinks that Dave handed him the gun.
I do.
And you recall making that with Seth Kenny?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin just doesn't remember who handed him the gun, and apparently, like, was it Hannah? Was it Dave?
After the shooting occurred and the incident occurred, Did you go back on or about October 27th for the search of the prop truck?
That would have to be the day that the police were there.
And you may not recall the day, but do you recall it being 5 or 6 days after the shooting?
I don't recall the day.
Okay. Prior to going, did you provide the code to the safe to Seth Kenny?
I believe I did.
Before you had provided him that code, who had the code to the safe?
Hannah, me, and Nicole.
You then gave the code to Seth Kenny. Did you give that code to anyone else?
I don't think so.
The prop truck search happens. Are you present for that search?
They were there before I got there. They had already started the process.
When you got there, was Seth Kenny there?
Yes.
Did you retrieve some of your personal belongings that day?
Not until after the police cleared out.
Okay. Before that search, had you retrieved some of your personal belongings from the set?
I had attempted to go back because everyone else was able to go back to their trucks to retrieve their things, but ours was still locked, so I was not able to retrieve anything.
Ultimately, you did retrieve your property?
Correct.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm cold.
At one point,
Hair on.
there was a negligent discharge on set we've heard about, and that involved you handling a firearm, is that right?
Yes.
And again, you were trying to let the hammer down, you had your finger on the trigger, and then it went off, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was with one of the revolvers?
Correct.
After that, didn't you have a disagreement with Ms. Gutierrez Reed?
A small one, yes.
Did you thereafter have discussions with people about wanting to fire Hannah?
I didn't want to fire her. I had my disagreements with her, but I never actually fired her or wanted to.
Okay, you said you didn't want to fire her?
No.
Do you recall being interviewed on November 2nd, 2023 in this case?
Yes.
And you were asked the question, okay, did you want to fire her? Your answer is yes, and that's on page 19, 2 to 3. Did you want to fire her? You said yes.
Okay.
Me, I think it's gonna be cold and rainy this weekend, Nicole. I need to plant my seeds, but I haven't done it yet. Gotta start up my flower garden.
Do you recall saying
I
that?
do.
Okay, so is it true then that you wanted to fire her?
From props, yes.
Okay, but a second ago you said you had not made that statement, but
Yeah, I'm correcting myself now.
okay. So the reality is that you had wanted to fire her.
From props.
Yes. And other people had wanted to fire her as well, right?
From Seth, or
Just in general.
I believe Seth wanted me to do something about it, yes.
And I think what you just stated is you did not do anything, ultimately.
I did not know.
One of the reasons why you had wanted to fire Hannah is that you didn't feel she was doing enough with her props duties.
Correct.
And you communicated that to Hannah as well, right?
I did not.
You did not tell her that? That you wanted her to do more in her props duties?
I don't think I actually told her that. I just had asked her to do things and she didn't want to do them.
Did you know that Hannah and Gabrielle Pickle then had a disagreement over props duties?
I did hear about it, yes.
And there was an email that you knew about?
Hannah showed me, yes.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you to talk about the contents of it, but you did see an email on that.
Yes.
That was approximately October 16th or 17th that you had that disagreement, right?
About,
With Hannah, that small disagreement?
oh, yes.
And so that's 5 days before the shooting.
Okay.
And then at what point was the decision made by you that you wanted to fire Hannah? Was it the 16th? Was it the 17th? Do you remember what day that was?
I don't.
I think they mentioned that armorer gets paid more than props, but I wonder if that includes like being the prop master. Does armorer still get paid more than the props master?
You talked to Seth Kenny about that.
Yes.
How many times did you talk to him about that?
I don't know.
Now, one thing I forgot to ask you was after the 21st, after the incident had happened, you don't have a good memory of the sequence of events?
I do not.
You remember that yourself and Nicole had been at the prop cart when the shot went off, is that right?
Yes.
And you did not see Hannah at that point, or did you?
I had not.
Yeah, Hannah says that she was at the prop cart with her and Sarah Zachary and they had a conversation. But she's like, no, Hannah wasn't there. So where the fuck was Hannah?
Right after it happened, is the next time that you remember seeing Hannah was when they were unloading the revolver?
No, she was in front of the church, by herself looking at the church.
Okay. And then at some point they unload the revolver and then she goes over with Brian Norvell to one of the other houses. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Did you see Hannah get loaded into the police car?
No.
After the incident took place and you come back and given Hannah her bag, did you talk to people on the set?
Yes.
And where were you standing when you were talking to people?
I was in the town at one point and then back at base camp.
So did those people include Alec Baldwin and David Halls?
No.
Who did you talk to?
Jensen and Swen and Nicole.
Did you ever see or hear about a lawyer being on set?
No.
Okay. After that, what time did you leave the set?
To go back to base camp or
To leave completely.
maybe not until 9:30.
Okay, so you stayed approximately 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
What were you doing during that time frame?
A lot of it was waiting around. We were at base camp for a long time, waiting to be interviewed by the police.
You were interviewed then on site.
Yes.
Okay.
Tina?
Since you were on site, you would have had the opportunity to tell the police at that point that you had thrown those rounds away, right?
Sure.
And you don't recall whether you did that?
I don't know.
Do you feel like that's something that you would remember if you had done it?
No.
Okay, I want to. You're telling law enforcement that you had thrown those rounds away.
Yes.
When was that?
I remember telling them like a month later when I was talking to Detective Alex.
Okay, we're talking about October 21st, 21, when this happened.
Yes.
And you interviewed then. And you interviewed with Mr. Scott Elliott on November 2nd, 2023, correct?
With who?
That was an interview with an investigator on this case. Mr. Elliott, do you recall that individual?
I do not.
Okay. In that interview, just to remind you, you had an attorney present. Do you remember that interview?
I remember Detective Alex.
Okay.
Elliott.
Do you not remember the interview in November of 2023 when Spirit Gaines was present?
Who?
I do not.
Okay. If I showed you a copy of this, would it might refresh your memory?
Also, why, if she was trying to hide something, like throwing away the dummy rounds, why would she tell law enforcement about a month later? Why wouldn't she just not tell them and not say anything at all?
I want to make sure that you're understanding what I'm asking. So you were interviewed with the police, as I understand it, 2 times. There was one on October 21st, 2021, and there was one, I think, a month later. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And do you remember being interviewed a 3rd time in a pretrial interview in this case on November 2nd, 2023? Not with the police, but with other
Wait, I've never heard of Tina being called cocaine before. That's like the first time.
people involved in this case.
I believe so.
Damn.
And again, I'll ask you, do you remember the attorney Spirit Gaines was present?
Yes.
Okay. So
Dude, I watched, when I was a kid, I watched What's Love Got to Do With It. That movie fucked me up so much. I don't know why I watched it as a kid. It was like really good, but it would always like mind fuck me because like that movie was like wild. Like there were some scenes in there with Ike and Tina. I don't know. That shit fucked me up when I was a kid.
that's the interview I'm talking about. That was approximately 3 months ago.
Okay.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall in that interview talking about whether you had informed law enforcement
Of what?
about the throwing away of the rounds?
I don't recall what I said in that interview.
Okay. So that was 3 months ago, but I know you've had several interviews, but you do not remember that.
Not the specific conversation.
Okay. In any event, you did tell them at some point you think that you threw those rounds away. Do you recall what exactly that you told them?
I don't.
Okay. Did you also tell them that you had transported those firearms from that cart? Or that you had intended to and other people helped you?
I believe so.
Did you tell them that you had taken Hannah's personal bag to her?
I believe so.
Did you take anything else from the cart that we haven't talked about that day on October 21st, 2021?
No.
You also talked to Weston Brownlee after the shooting incident? Is that right?
He did send me a message, yes.
So you texted with him?
Briefly.
And that was about some of the things going on in this case, right?
Yes.
Do you recall being angry at Ms. Gutierrez-Reed at one point on or about October 29th, 2021? You said, I hope she's put in jail. This is outrageous.
I don't remember the specific text message. I'd have to look at it.
If I showed it to you, would it refresh your memory?
Possibly.
Now that you've had a chance to read it, does that remind you whether you said that?
Yes.
So you agree that she said, I hope she's put in jail. This is outrageous.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Oh man, this is their time to shine. It's because they don't have anything.
We're live.
Sorry.
Ms. Zachary, you mentioned earlier that you had rattled some of the rounds to check if they were live.
Yes.
Did you notice that when law enforcement got there, the boxes were closed?
I don't remember.
Do you recall closing the box up after you had rattled the rounds?
I don't recall.
When the prop truck search was done, days after the shooting, do you recall the prop cart being inside the prop truck?
When police came to retrieve the weapons, I
Yeah.
don't remember it being in the truck.
Did you go in the prop truck during the search?
After police left, yes.
Did you see the prop cart inside of it?
I don't remember.
Discussions with Mr. Kinney that he didn't want you to say anything? Did you ever get the impression after in discussions with Mr. Kinney that he didn't want you to say anything
About
about anything? Not talk about anything?
with just anyone?
Yes.
That wasn't my impression.
Okay. Do you remember a point in time when you were texting with Mr. Kinney and you had indicated that you were talking to Alec Baldwin, and then he responds with an emoji?
I don't recall.
You don't recall ever getting an emoji with a hand over the mouth?
No.
Do you know what that means, that emoji that I'm talking about? One where it's just kind of going like that?
No. I mean,
Can we see the text message?
Not mean to keep your mouth closed?
it's not what I see that as.
Okay. So in your testimony, you don't believe Mr. Kinney ever told you not to talk to people about what had happened? That's your testimony?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I think Hannah will take the stand. I mean, I feel like at this point she's gotta, but I don't think she should.
I have nothing further.
Cross-exam, I mean redirecting.
Ms.
Meh.
Zachary, I've got a few follow-up questions for you. Do you recall the specific language of your cooperation agreement with the state of New Mexico in terms of the requirement with me? Are you required to give truthful testimony?
Yes.
What happens to your agreement with me if you don't give truthful testimony?
Then I'm not bound by that testimony or that cooperation agreement anymore.
Right. If you don't give truthful testimony, I can prosecute you if I want to, right?
Correct.
Scary. Prosecutor with pink glasses. Scary.
You were asked a variety of questions about whether or not you wanted to fire Ms. Gutierrez. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
In terms of your role as boss of Ms. Gutierrez, you were only her boss with regard to her work with props, is that right?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the... I'm sorry. I'm objection.
Explain to the jury what your role was with regard to supervising Ms. Gutierrez in her capacity as prop assistant versus armorer.
When it came to being a props assistant, that's where I would ask her to help me with those miscellaneous props that I had mentioned earlier. But armor is in a different department from my understanding, and so she was in charge of that. So what she said goes for the weapons, not props.
I know, watch her go up on the stand, having her leg up on... What's the little... She'll have her like legs up, you know? Chilled, laying back.
Does the armorer have autonomy when it comes to weapons?
Yes.
During the time that you worked with Ms. Gutierrez, did you find her to be easy to work with?
No.
During the time that you worked with Ms. Gutierrez as her supervisor in props, did she call you a cunt?
Yes.
Was it around that time that you decided you might want to fire her?
No, it was just overall. But
What else about working with Ms. Gutierrez was difficult other than her referring to you as a cunt?
mainly, I just felt like her work ethic wasn't the greatest. She wasn't always willing to help in a year or two. She was usually wanting to be in the truck to clean guns for the day. And yeah.
Did Ms. Gutierrez ever show up to set late?
One day, yes.
Did she give you a reason for that?
She had a migraine.
She told you she had a migraine.
Correct.
But she was able to show up and work at some point that day, right?
Yes.
So apparently the migraine didn't last all day?
No.
What does Hannah do now? I'm assuming she's not
After the
working on movie
incident,
sets
did you
anymore.
have contact with Ms. Gutierrez when she was sitting in the back of Mr. Benavidez's police car?
I believe so, yes.
And why were you having contact with her?
I was just checking on her to see if she was okay.
And did you ask her if she was okay?
Yes.
And what was her response?
I don't recall.
Did she express concerns to you about how this might affect her career?
Yep.
Hey, we heard it on the police body cam. We heard it in the interrogations.
Ms. Zachary, during that conversation, do you recall Ms. Gutierrez saying anything about her career?
Yes.
And what did she say to the best of your recollection?
I don't remember verbatim, but it was about that this was going to ruin her career.
Now, at the time that she's telling you that she's worried about her career, is there a life flight helicopter on the ground waiting for Ms. Hutchins?
Your Honor, objection again.
It was right after the...
Overruled.
I think it was before that.
It was before life flight arrived.
It was right after the incident.
But police were on set, correct?
I don't.
Again,
Hang on a second. I'm sorry. I agree with you. When you spoke to Ms. Gutierrez, where was she?
She was in front of the church.
When you spoke to her about her concerns about her career, where was she?
She was in front of the church.
I'm sorry, she wasn't in the police car.
No, we didn't talk about that at that point.
You didn't talk about that at that point.
Not that I recall.
Okay. At the time that you spoke to her and she indicated concerns about her career, what was happening?
Chaos. Everyone was trying to figure out what happened.
Were people screaming?
It was after Joel screamed, and I know that the script supervisor was getting angry at everyone.
Do you know, was 911 being called?
I didn't, like I said before, I didn't hear 911 call or being called, but I assumed that they were being called.
If you know, were people laying on the floor of the church?
Joel, I saw Joel at that point.
You didn't see Miss Hutchins,
I didn't see Helena at all.
but you understand that she was laying on the floor also.
No objection.
At some point later, did you realize that Miss Hutchins was injured?
I was told, yes.
And when you saw Ms. Gutierrez after the incident, was she standing at the door of the church?
She was a little further back.
At any point in time, did you see her standing at the door of the church?
No, I don't recall.
Okay.
Hi, Gigi. Hi, Article.
Can you explain to the jury why you thought it was important after the incident to remove the guns from the area and get them back to the truck?
And like I said, Jensen Ackles had told me to get the guns to safety, so that's what we were intending on doing, was to remove them from the set and get them back to the safe on the prop truck.
And you were asked to provide Ms. Gutierrez her personal bag, is that right?
Yes.
And I want you to describe that for the jury. What did it look like?
I don't remember.
Was it the fanny pack or not?
No objection.
I don't think that's leading. Was it the fanny pack?
I don't remember.
Okay. On occasion, you would throw away dummies after a scene was shot. Why would you do that?
I didn't need them anymore.
Is that something that you did when you were working on the set of Rust?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. How many times do you think you did that during filming?
I don't know.
Do you know whether production has purchased those dummies or whether they are renting them?
At the time, I had thought they were purchased, but after reading the invoices, I found out that they were rentals.
Where'd you hear that from, Lila Love?
So who were they renting them from?
The vendors, Seth Kenny and Billy Ray.
Okay.
Because you would need like medical like experience training or some sort of certification or something like that. Unless you're doing like admin stuff.
At some point, you were asked by law enforcement to agree to a full extraction of your cell phone, correct?
Yes,
And did you agree to do that?
I did.
Oh, is it admin stuff? Sorry, I made it seem like she was assisting with the brain surgery.
To the best of your recollection, what specifically was the issue that you and Mr. Baldwin spoke of?
Mainly how a live round ended up on set.
So Mr. Baldwin wanted to find out how a live round ended up on the movie set, right?
Yes.
Did you also?
I did want to know, yes.
And Mr. Bowles asked you about a text message where you indicated you were trying to keep your facts straight.
Mm-hmm.
What did you mean by that?
I was trying to recall things correctly when I was telling people things.
Did you have difficulty recalling certain things?
Yes.
Why?
I mean, in a state of shock and when everything's crazy, I couldn't remember things quite right.
Mariah, hi. Like the live, y'all.
You were asked some questions about
it.
Mr.
You
Kinney
must
being
like
present
it.
the day of the search of the prop truck. To be clear, where was the safe that housed the guns?
On the prop truck.
Was it inside the truck?
Yes.
And could anyone get into the safe if the truck was locked?
No.
You had to get into the truck to get into the safe.
Yes.
And you understood that the safe was locked, or that the truck was locked.
Yes.
You needed more assistance with props.
Yes.
Ms. Pickle had a conversation with Ms. Gutierrez.
It was before.
Do you have any experience in police investigations?
No.
Do you have any idea what the police are looking for on a crime scene?
No.
Were the guns or the dummy rounds that were assigned to Mr. Ackles and Mr. Timmel involved in the incident?
No.
I don't have anything further.
Sure. Okay, next we got Joel Souza. Joel Souza is the director that was shot as well, and I think the bullet was found in him, and he obviously survived. So we have Joel Souza here, and he's going to go up there and testify. We're going to hop around with his testimony.
Production office.
Okay. And approximately, if you recall, when did you first meet Ms. Gutierrez?
In person, I had a phone call with her before I ever met her. One of the folks from the production office, I can't remember if it was Gabby or Roe, had told me that they had found an armor. They told me that it was Hannah Gutierrez Reed. I'd of course heard of Thel Reed, in the business, who hasn't? And so they told me that they had found her. I was keen on having what's called a show and tell, where you would basically have all the weapons that would be used for the movie more or less laid out on tables, and you would then match the cast up with what looks best for their characters and makes the most sense story-wise. And so I wanted to have that, and so the production had her call me, and she introduced herself to me, and we spoke over the phone the first time then. And then a few days later, I can't remember exactly how much, it was a day later, a few days later, I met her in person at the show and tell, and then she was training people that day as well.
And at some point, I presume that filming begins and a lot of work begins. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the pre-production itself is an enormous undertaking as well. But we eventually got to our first day of filming, yes.
But I want to ask you a couple of, prior to your work on Rust, had you worked on any other movies where there were real firearms and an armorer?
The movie I had done before Crown Vic was a movie about police. And although most of the movie was spent with the two characters driving in a car, so they didn't have anything on them, there were a few occasions we had some armorer days where there were police weapons and then an armorer there with that.
Do you recall how many days you got to experience an armorer on set?
Maybe 3 or something, like 3 or 4. It wasn't an enormous amount of days, but
Okay.
there was not a lot of gunfire on that movie, frankly.
Okay. Can you give us an idea of what your focus is in a given day on the set?
Yeah, it's most about like who you work with and interact with most. My most direct interactions are with my director of photography, and there's a byproduct of that, the camera team. But you're also talking to wardrobe and production design a lot because you're moving from set to set. They're asking you, is this right? Is this okay? Is this okay? So in general, yeah, I work, my script supervisor is always there with me as well. But in general, you work with the creative departments. You are spending a ton of time with your cast, with your actors. You're blocking the scenes out. You're walking them through their performances. You're sort of getting on the same page together.
I would say, for lack of a better word, the overall amount of power that the armorer has over the firearms and ammunition on the set.
Well, I would say that specifically since it's such a safety matter and it's such a specialized matter, that there's really no one on set that should be able to override the armor in terms of the weapons, the ammunition, how they're handled, anything. What the armor says goes.
And would that include the star actor and producer, Mr. Baldwin?
It would include anybody, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a little bit about the COVID protocols that were in place on the set of Rust. We understand that this was during COVID. Tell us how that worked.
Yeah, it was during COVID. We would come to set in the mornings. You'd get in a big line. They would have the people doing the testing. There was, I believe, like a trailer there there was a specific kind of testing you would do that would be more like the quick nasal swab, and there was the kind that would take longer to process. They would do both. People were with masks, particularly indoors, were encouraged to. I think everyone tried to be extremely careful, and to my knowledge, we never had a positive test on.
The state keeps asking about the COVID stuff because I think they're anticipating that Hannah might be saying that, the reason why she didn't stay in the church and to oversee whether or not the guns were being used or whatever was because there was COVID restrictions and they didn't want many people in the church, and that's why she stayed outside. So I think that's the reason why they brought up this COVID thing so many times, because maybe she's going to use it as an excuse because this was in 2021, right? But a year after the pandemic hit. And maybe she'll say like, hey, I wasn't in there because, the COVID stuff and they didn't want me in there.
The show.
Okay. Was there any kind of a requirement on the set that people needed to leave, let's say, the church or another indoor filming area to reduce the number of people inside due to COVID?
Nothing I heard of. No, the people who had to be there. So.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I would believe too. Hi, Storm. Not looking good, Hannah. Not looking good. What you got, girl?
Let me ask you. You wrote the script, so are you familiar with all of the scenes that were to be recorded in this movie?
Yep.
You understand now what dummy rounds are used for?
Yeah. They're essentially, you put them in so that if there's a close-up on the gun, there is something that is in the gun that is inert, that can't do anything, but looks like there's a bullet in the gun.
Hey, Moondog.
To the best of your recollection, was there ever a close-up scene of an actor or a stuntman loading or unloading the lever-action rifle that was assigned to Mr. Baldwin?
No, there was not.
Based on your understanding of the scenes in the script, can you think of any reason that dummy rounds would have been placed inside that rifle for filming?
No, I think, if my memory serves, I believe the only thing that rifle was going to be used for, it was, there's one scene where it fires and accidentally kills somebody. But we were never going to have the rifle fire in any way because it's an underage actor in that scene holding the weapon, and so we were just going to CGI the gun blast.
Okay, and when you say CGI,
Just computer effects. You put a fake gunshot in digitally in the special effects process after you filmed.
and hypothetically, if that rifle was going to be used for actual firing, would it have blanks in it and not dummies?
Hey, Erebus, what's up? How are you doing today?
Back to the church, and you pick up where
Happened when,
it would be faster to drive them in vans over to where we would have lunch.
okay, and what happened when lunch was over?
Lunch was over. Everybody migrates back to the church, and you pick up where you left off.
Were you inside the church immediately after lunch was over?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you stay inside the church the entire time between when lunch ended and when the shooting occurred?
No. I at a certain point went outside of the church.
You know how Alec Baldwin did like this huge ass fucking interview? Did Hannah do an interview too after the shooting happened? Or did she kind of like did the smart thing and just like stayed hush hush?
And why were you doing that?
So when we were setting up the camera angle, we were talking about what the shot was supposed to be. And forgive me if I over-explain this, but the scene is very tense, right? And so you achieve that through editing and camera angles. And so you want to see Rust sitting there. Is he dead? Is he alive? The men coming closer, they're ordering him to give up. And then you cut to close-ups, and you're cutting from the character to the lawmen back and forth. And the first shot was supposed to essentially be the first moment we might realize.
No, not the interrogations. I mean like TV interview. Did she ever do any TV interviews? I know her dad did. Her dad did. But did she? Her dad did like a TV interview with the lawyer. Was like, oh, it was sabotage. It wasn't because, she was neglect and she's not going to go to jail. I'm very confident it was sabotage.
That Rust is not, in fact, as injured as we might have thought. And so it's going to be a close-up on the weapon coming out of the holster. And so we talked about that a little bit. Helena and I talked, and there's Reed there, Serge was there. They're talking about the lighting. And then at a certain point, it's time to set the camera angle up. It's not a rehearsal yet. You're just sort of what they call auditioning the shot. Like, do you like this camera angle?
Okay.
And so once they do that, the camera was on the dolly, which is a gigantically heavy piece of equipment. And it was in the middle of an aisle between pews. So the pews were here and the dolly's in the middle. And when you're in a tight space like that, I generally, when they start moving the gear around, feel like I'm in the way. And so I got out of the way, went outside, and I figured, we still had one monitor. There was no village anymore that day, or that I'm aware of. Not in the traditional sense that there would be monitors lined up, but there was still a monitor that I could see the camera through.
Where was that monitor?
That was outside of the church. I don't remember if they had it on a stand or if it was on a cart. It was not a big one, but they were trying to get image up on the monitor having come back from lunch. And after a time, the image was just not coming up. And so I decided, before they get too far afield, if they're sort of setting this up in a way that I think isn't going to work, I would like to at least stop them and say, no, let's move it here. And so that's when I went back inside to have a look.
So at any point in time, did you see Ms. Gutierrez enter the church with the firearm?
No, I wasn't aware of her coming in or leaving her.
Oh, I forgot to point this out. Hold on. This is after she leaves. Sarah Zachary, when she leaves the courtroom, Hannah does like a full turnaround. Which I always think it's interesting to observe people. Hold on, sorry, because I forgot to exit through this. Okay, so she's leaving the stand. She's like, bye, peace out, I'm done.
In this case, may be recalled. Okay, so next witness.
Oh, she might be recalled. Okay, she can't talk to anyone. She might come back. All right, she's leaving. She's getting the fuck out. She's like, peace out. Hannah's acting like she's not looking. But now she does a whole.
Bathroom break. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here.
360 turn.
We'll be back at.
Sorry. Girl drama.
The church was, there's an enormous amount going on. A million voices, it feels like. The special effects guys are rigging things up in the roof for debris for later on. When the shooting starts, there'll be debris falling down, and there are people working the lights. There are people moving the cameras. There's a lot going on, and so I didn't really register that.
Do you have any idea who provided Mr. Baldwin his revolver for the scene?
No, I mean, just beyond in a general sense about who's supposed to hand it off, but no, I didn't see anybody give it to him.
Okay. At some point, does Mr. Baldwin get his revolver?
I mean, he clearly had it. The interesting thing, I never saw him with it. I mean, he clearly had it because of what happened, but when I went in to look at to see what was going on with the camera angle, I remember there's sort of a big group kind of hovered around where he would be. He would be sitting in the pew. I just couldn't see him. I'm not the tallest guy in the world. And so I what I wanted to do was get up behind Helena to try to sneak a look over her. There's a little tiny monitor on the side of the camera to at least see that, to see what it was looking like. But I never even got a look at that.
Okay, so explain to us when you're going into the church and why and what you do and what happens.
So I went inside again to try to see what the angle was. There were a lot of voices. I heard Alex's voice. I heard Helena's voice. Everyone sort of talking at once.
Hey, good guy.
I don't have a clear memory of how long I was standing behind her. I know I got up behind her just to try to see on the monitor, and there was an incredibly loud bang that was not like the half and quarter loads you hear on a set. Those are they're loud poofs and pops. This was deafening. And it felt like somebody had taken a baseball bat to my shoulder. I remember that distinctly, and sort of stumbling back and shouting. I don't remember exactly what I said.
Were you able to see Ms. Hutchins at that time?
I did. I remember sort of stumbling back, and I either fell to my knees or I was sitting, and I distinctly remember her being lowered to the ground. People had her sort of by either side. And I still didn't quite know what had happened. Nothing made sense. I remember initially thinking, had she been startled by it? And they were sitting her down as a result, and then I saw the blood on her back.
And to the best of your recollection, what happened after that?
It got very chaotic. I remember them laying me down. I remember them laying her down next to me. Although we were sort of facing in opposite directions. My head was this way, her head was that way. I remember a lot of panic. I still just couldn't figure out what had happened. I thought, was there something that had been stuck in the barrel that came out? But just nothing made sense. I remember our dolly grip, Ross, coming to sort of grab me and trying to call me, and then Matt Hemmer came in, and between the two of them, I remember they sort of tended to me and were pulling up and just trying to find out where there was a hole.
Do you recall, Mr. Souza, at any point in time during that general time after the gun went off, having any kind of an interaction with Ms. Gutierrez?
I remember at one point looking up and her standing there with another person or a few other people, and she looked distraught. And I remember her saying, I'm sorry, Joel," and I remember somebody just screaming at her, and they just ushered her out.
Okay. At some point in time, were you taken from the scene?
Yeah, it's funny, when I hear later about how long we laid there, it felt like 5 minutes. And I remember looking over and her looking back at me. And she had the biggest brown eyes I've ever seen. And then, but I don't remember who they took out first. They put me on some kind of stretcher and rolled me out.
And where did they take you?
They told me they were going to take me to they said they were going to take me to the hospital, and I kept begging them to take me where she was, but they said they couldn't and that they would later. And they eventually took me to, I think it's Christus St. Vincent, I think that's what it's called, in Santa Fe.
And when you were at the hospital, did you have an understanding that you had been actually shot by a bullet?
No. I mean, I knew something got me, but...
I see a little bit of Laura Linney. Yeah, just a bit. But she reminds me, I don't know, I feel like I've seen this prosecutor before, like somewhere, like with the exact same hairstyle.
They kept talking about this bullet, and it could not compute for me. I just kept saying, you don't understand. No, this was a movie set. That's not possible. You don't get it. And they kept saying, no, it is. And I just keep insisting, you don't understand, because this is not possible. It's just not possible that there's a live round. It just can't.
But Laura Linney, oh my God, she pisses me off so much. Do you guys watch Ozark? Oh, I was so angry at her in Ozark. That movie, and I feel like she always plays like the evil bitch in like lots of movies and TV shows. But in Ozark, she was so annoying. Ugh, fucking Wendy.
Not possible. It's just not possible that there's a live round. It's not. It just can't. And then they eventually maybe grew tired of my protesting about it because they showed me the X-ray of my back, and there was a very large bullet in it.
Okay.
She sounds like her. I can hear
And
that.
sir, do you know whether Ms. Gutierrez was inside
a
the
bit.
church at the time that the gun went off?
I don't know.
In your experience, would you have had an expectation that she would have been in the church?
Yeah, the armor would be where the gun is.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So, Mr. Souza, I think before you testified that before the Rust movie, your experience with firearms was on Crown Vic. Is that correct?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Okay, and that was a movie you directed,
I directed and wrote Crown Vic, yeah.
and you wrote that. Okay,
Yeah.
and that I think you said had a couple scenes involving firearms. Is that right?
Well, in where guns were fired, there wasn't, yeah, there were a few, yeah.
So you had an armorer on that set. Was that armor full time?
He was there for the days that the guns were going to be used or fired, yeah.
Is that the only occasion you've ever worked on a set with an armorer?
Yeah.
Okay. So is it fair to say your experience with working with armorers was fairly limited?
Up to that point, yeah.
Okay. So are you familiar with the SAG safety rules where if the armorer or prop master are not present, a responsibility falls on the AD?
I don't think I ever really reviewed the SAG rules. I don't think I would have been aware of what the procedure would have been if the armor wasn't there. I think my assumption was always that the armor was supposed to be there.
Okay, and you made an assumption, but if there's a SAG rule that indicates that responsibility then falls on the AD, are you aware of that?
That's not a rule that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Also, it's not like Hannah was part of SAG as well. She wasn't part of any union. It's not like she would have known that either. I seriously doubt that Hannah knew that like the second the AD or whatever what it's like was sorry. I feel like because she wasn't part of any union, she wouldn't have known that the AD would have been the next person in charge if the armor was there. I think she just wasn't there just because she just wasn't fucking there. She was just like, okay, peace out. Y'all got the gun? Good. All right, bye.
Okay. So you have not reviewed the SAG rules with respect to armorers in general, or firearm safety in general?
No, I'm not a SAG member, so.
Okay.
But no,
And I doubt Hannah reviewed the rules either.
Rules with respect to armorers in general, or firearm safety in general?
no, I'm not a SAG member, so.
Okay.
But no, I haven't, no.
Okay. So if in the church at that time, Ms. Gutierrez Reed was not present, and you don't remember?
I don't.
Okay. But Mr. Halls was. He was the first assistant director, correct?
He was the first assistant director, yes.
Now, you don't remember, I think you said, seeing who handed Mr.
And I wonder if he's like misquoting it, the SAG rules. Maybe he's misquoting it.
Baldwin the firearm.
That's correct.
And I think you said, sir, you don't remember Mr. Baldwin even having the revolver. You didn't see it. I mean, he had to have had it, but
I know he had it before lunch.
Yeah.
I know he had to have had it for obvious reasons, but I didn't see him holding it in that. It never got to that.
okay. So before lunch, did you see who handed Mr. Baldwin the revolver?
No, I remember at some point before lunch hearing Dave call out Colt gun, but I don't remember who handed it to him.
Okay, and that's Dave Halls?
Yeah.
And Mr. Halls called out cold gun before lunch that you remember?
As I remember that, yeah.
Okay. Was the blocking done before lunch as well for that scene?
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on in that scene. We had sort of gotten to a certain point in it. What was coming next, we had not practiced before. What was coming next was essentially just picking up where we left off. That was what's called an insert. It was an insert shot.
Okay, sir, and this insert shot, this was going to be after lunch?
That was our first shot up after lunch.
Okay. And was this an insert shot of an extreme close-up on the hand as it's pulling from the holster?
Yeah, it was what I had in mind was, again, I talked about it a little bit before, but you have the hand kind of coming out like this, pulling it, yeah.
And when you just demonstrated that, you had your hand coming across and pulling in front of you?
Correct.
Okay.
Because that's where his thing was up here, so it would have naturally been going that way.
And do you know whether from the script, whether that firearm was supposed to be pointed towards the camera?
Well, it's not a matter of the script, really. For that specific shot, it was literally supposed to be the gun being pulled out sideways.
Okay, sir, and when you demonstrated that, you did not have your hand pointed forward?
No.
Okay. So in that extreme close-up shot, it was just supposed to be pulled out in front?
Right.
Okay.
It was very short.
Okay. And was that designed to be like an insert to build tension in the scene?
Yeah, you cut back and forth and back and forth. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I understand. So at the time that occurred, after lunch, when you're doing that extreme close-up scene, was that called the blocking?
Yeah, it's sort of blocking for camera, yeah, to see, they want to see where the focus needs to be, and how it's going to look, which way the camera's going to be oriented, essentially. When I said auditioning the shot, it's essentially the same thing as the camera blocking for the shot.
So in essence, that scene is just setting up. There's not even filming going on at that point.
Correct.
Okay. So with regard to that, did Mr. Baldwin?
But here's the thing: Hannah hasn't given a good reason as to why she wasn't there for that scene.
Did you ever hear Mr. Baldwin insist on having his revolver for that scene?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay. Were you aware that generally during the movie he liked to have his hero guns?
I don't think it's unusual for actors to like that thing. I mean, again, in hindsight, it would have been easy to sort of say focus on that and think about it. At the time, I don't know that I had a sort of a clear understanding of that or not.
Okay.
I just don't want to speculate.
Right, absolutely. So your knowledge of that kind of firearm and in that particular scene, at that time it wasn't very extensive.
Right.
Okay. So in that scene there's a blocking and it's just going to be an extreme close-up. You were paying attention to the camera, as I understand you're trying to look at the monitor?
Right. Like I said, I wanted to see what the angle was. But since the monitor wasn't up yet, I thought, well, I should go inside and try to catch a look at it there, because if it doesn't fit what I need to come next, there are very specific pieces I need.
Okay.
And if it doesn't fit what comes next, we should stop. There was not a lot of time to waste that day. So
Absolutely. The day started off behind.
yeah.
So is it fair to say that your attention was focused on trying to get the right kind of camera angle for that extreme close-up?
Yeah, because there's no real performance at play there. It's more of a technical exercise. It's just here's what I need to happen in this close-up so in the editing room so that I can get this to work.
So at that time, and taking it back to that time, you're more focused on trying to get the scene set up. Your focus is
Fanny's fortifications. I watched a little bit of the closing statements. Did the judge decide yet, Warden?
not on looking around to see if Miss Gutierrez Reed is in the church. Is that fair?
I'd say that's fair, correct.
And so at the time, did it occur to you at all to look around and see if the armor is there, and if not, to call her, semi-call her?
No, I wouldn't say that it did.
Okay. And because at that time, there wasn't even going to be more than just pulling out of a holster, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you didn't hear, well, you didn't know she was in the church. Was in the church, so
Hello?
obviously you didn't hear anybody go get her or call her back in.
Like I said, there were so many voices going on. I'm just trying to focus on what I can focus on at that point.
Absolutely. You described
Type 1 in chat if you can hear me. I don't know what just happened, and everything just like blipped for a second. The heck? The ruling in 2 weeks? I don't want to wait 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks? Tell us now. All right, 2 weeks it is. What is Fanny's fornications? Fornications? That one's a complicated one. Fanny is like the DA in Georgia who was investigating Trump, and they were doing this whole trial thing. But then there was someone that she hired that apparently she was having romantic relations with, and something like that you should disclose. And now they're airing out all of her dirty laundry. That's like the very basic explanation of it. But when she went up there and testified, it was very spicy. It was very entertaining. Even though I didn't know anything about what was going on, I listened to her testimony and I was like, oh shit, this is fire. But yeah. But apparently her lover, who was her partner in going after Trump, also testified. And then there was like their friend and then like some law firm partner. I don't know. It seemed like a hot mess. There was apparently a guy that was like his friend that testified. And then like when he went up there was a lot of like, I don't recall, I don't remember. Sorry, what was one again? One means you can hear me, right? She paid her boyfriend nearly 10 times than the other lawyers. Yeah, I don't know anything else about that. All I know was that she said that they were, what was it again? It was like they were not in a relationship when she hired him at the time. Fannie Willis. Yeah, that's her name. It was a spicy scandal. Yeah, I think she still maintains that they were not in a relationship at the time that she hired him, right? But they apparently had like text messages and I don't know. Just lots of stuff going on. But is he still working on the case with her? Because I know they want to completely disqualify the entire DA team. But is he currently like still working on it with her?
There's so many voices going on. I'm just trying to focus on what I can focus on at that point.
absolutely. You described it, and I kind of get the picture in my head. It was a little bit. It's all kinds of things are going on at that moment. There's people trying to set up the cameras. And tell me if I'm wrong, or why don't you tell it in your words?
Well, there's just a lot of people moving in a lot of different directions. There's the special effects people hanging what are called poppers from the ceiling. There's a type they will, during the gunfight, they will pop and then debris will come raining down. There are people positioning lights. There are people moving cameras. There are wardrobe people in and out. There are, there's just a lot. It's, and under normal circumstances, it's quite a thing to watch, frankly.
I also want to ask you on the long rifle, the Henry rifle. Did you have much knowledge of how the Henry rifle works?
Beyond what I'd read about it when I was writing the script, no, I know it's a lever action, and that's what appealed to me in a visual sense. And but beyond that, not really, no.
Okay. Do you have much experience in general with knowing types of firearms, how they function?
No, outside of movies, I have nothing to do with guns.
Okay. Now, on that Henry rifle, there was one scene in the script where Mr. Baldwin's character is supposed to come out of the shack or whatever the structure is, and he's firing at the lawman. You remember that, sir?
Right.
And that did that involve his hero gun, the Henry rifle?
He was carrying it. He was not going to be firing it. It proved impractical.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you know that the Henry rifle is made such that there's a plunger on the bottom, and when the rounds are loaded, you can see or not see if rounds are in that rifle?
No, like I said, I'm not any kind of expert on a rifle.
Okay. A part of the armor's duties, would you agree with, they're to be there also for if the particular weapon Mr. Baldwin's holding needs to look like it's loaded, that's their job. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Because you got to have a realistic feel for the audience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's the entire reason dummies exist.
Okay. And so if the Henry rifle, if you can see at the bottom whether rounds are loaded or dummy rounds are loaded or not, that would be something that would you would want the armorer to handle.
If it was required for the scene, yes.
Okay. And in that particular scene, Mr. Baldwin is going to confront these lawmen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, with regard to dummies, I think you said before Rush, you weren't very familiar with dummies either.
I wasn't really familiar with the term of it. I think, I guess it's, I would have assumed that there was, if I'd watch a Western and you see something and they have a gun pointed and there's something at the end of there's something in the cylinders or whatever those are called. I think I would assume there's something in there. I wouldn't quite know what it is, but
okay.
Yeah.
And you talked about on the second go-round in your direct, you completed the rest filming?
We did.
And on that second filming, did you use wooden dummies?
I wouldn't even call them dummies because they didn't ever get loaded into anything. When there was a situation where we had to match previous shots, like on a bandolier where somebody had what would look like bullets, the armorer on that go-round had made them out of wood and then painted them and tucked them into the bandoliers.
Okay.
You watched this video yesterday of Alec trying to sell his property in the Hamptons. It was hilarious. Can you link it in the Discord? Why was he making a video of him trying to sell his house in the Hamptons? All right, let's hop into the next witness because we heard from Joel. This next guy is a hotel staff that may or may not have a thing with Hannah. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But apparently he said he saw there was ammunition in her hotel room.
Other crew members from the set of Rust were also staying at that hotel.
There were other crew members.
And at any point in time during your friendship with Ms. Gutierrez, did you have an opportunity to be in her hotel room?
Yes.
And if you recall, approximately how many times would you have been in her hotel room?
Can't really recall. Maybe a handful of times.
Wait, sorry. Why? Speak loud into the microphone, sir. Can hear you.
Handful of times, okay. And when you were in her hotel room, did you ever take notice of any boxes of ammunition?
Yes.
And I want to be clear, are you familiar with guns and ammunition at all?
I am.
Based on your experience, were you able to determine whether the ammunition was for pistols or rifles or anything?
Hey, DJ.
I saw
hey, Philip.
what looked like maybe a couple of rifle rounds, maybe shotgun shells, maybe one pistol round.
And when you say that you saw the rounds, were they in boxes?
There were a few that were not in boxes. They were sitting on the counter in the room.
And to the best of your recollection, were any of the rounds that were not in boxes pistol rounds?
One.
One was a pistol round. Do you recall approximately when you saw, and let me ask you, other than the rounds that were not in boxes, did you see boxes inside, did you also see boxes of ammunition in the room?
Yes.
And do you know whether the ammunition that you saw was real ammunition or fake ammunition for the movie?
I don't know the physical difference between fake ammunition and real ammunition.
Understood. Do you recall approximately when you would have noticed the ammunition in her hotel room?
It was maybe towards an evening.
I made it louder because I feel like his responses are like a little bit lower, so I just boosted up a bit.
In terms of like exactly what day, I can't give.
Do you know whether it was towards the beginning of her stay or the end of her stay?
Towards the beginning.
Did you see the ammunition in her room on more than one occasion?
No.
Just one occasion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness.
As part of being a desk clerk at the hotel, did you check Ms. Gutierrez Reed in when she started her stay?
I did.
Now, you did not know her before that, right?
No.
So you just came acquainted with her from her being a patron and coming to the hotel and you checking her in to stay there.
That is correct.
You said she at the start of her stay is when you believe you saw the ammunition. What day was that?
I can't recall.
Do you recall if that was in September of 2021, October of 2021? Do you have any idea?
Maybe mid-September.
Late September?
Out.
Okay. Okay, and you were up in her room. I know that you all texted, that you had texted Miss Gutierrez Reed, is that right?
Yes.
And did you go to a movie with her one time?
Yes.
Now, after that, didn't you want to keep texting her and have a different type of relationship with her?
Quite possibly.
That's what you wanted, isn't it, at that time?
Is Dave Bowles gonna try, or is his name Dave? I don't know. Is Mr. Bowles gonna try to say that he was like Tinder mad or something? Oh, you're mad that you were rejected, and that's why you're testifying against her.
Not too sure how it would have worked out, but perhaps.
Okay. And it was pretty clear from her text back that that's not what she wanted to do, right?
Yes.
Okay. Over a period of time, you kept texting her, and she just quit texting. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I know that you said on direct that you can't tell the live ammunition from a blank ammunition, for example. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay. And you also probably wouldn't be able to tell a dummy round from a live round, right?
Correct.
Now, these boxes that you had mentioned, do you remember what color they were?
Hey, Jay.
I remember they were kind of a army green, hard plastic.
Okay, and you just don't know exactly what was in them or what they contained?
No.
Okay. And in late September, you're aware that the filming had not started yet for the movie, or do you have any knowledge of that? Okay. Do you have any knowledge of when the movie started filming?
No knowledge.
Okay. Then I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right, and then this next witness, he was the wrangler, and he did say that he didn't have any concern with Hannah, like on the set stuff, but he did see there was guns laying around on the prop cart. So that was pretty much his testimony. That was important. And then they break for lunch, cross-examination. He also said that he has he can tell a difference between a real gun and a fake gun if he holds it, because defense is going to be like, oh, how do you know those weren't fake guns? How do you know those are real guns? All right. And then this is all new territory for me. I don't know who this next person is. Oh, I heard that she was the medic, the Rust movie medic, I guess.
Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Have a seat. Talk into the microphone.
Ma'am, go ahead and state your full name for the record.
My name is Sheryn Schaefer.
Ms. Schaefer, how are you currently employed?
I am employed as an EMT in the film industry.
I don't know how to spell that. Schaefer?
Can you just explain to the jury the situation, the connection between movie sets and medics? Is a medic always on a movie set, and if so, why?
Usually, if it's a union show, a medic is always on set. For the potential...
Let me go to the part where...
How long have you worked generally in the
weapons as a normal armorer would, or an armorer on...
Was the handling of firearms by the armorer on the set of Rust different than what you were used to?
Yes.
Can you describe to the jury what you noticed, how you thought it was different?
I noticed the armorer on Rust did not secure the weapons as a normal armorer would, or an armorer on productions I've worked on before would. Normally, the weapon would be secured until it was time for the actor or stunt actor to need it. And then the armorer would go to their generally a locked cabinet, grab the weapon, take it to the actor or stunt actor. With the first AD, sometimes the stunt coordinator, depending on who's there, open the weapon, empty it, if it needs to be emptied, show the actor or stunt actor the type of bullet, I guess you would call it, that's going to be in the gun, show it that it's not real, and then, or essentially check it in front of the actor and the first AD to make sure that everyone's comfortable with it, and then hand it over to that performer for the shot, for whatever shot they are shooting.
Just to be clear, what you just described was what you are accustomed to.
That is correct.
Can you explain to the jury how that procedure worked on the set of Rust?
A lot of times when I would notice our armorer hand the guns over to the actors, sometimes checking them, sometimes not. Generally, once the scene is over, you would remove the weapon. The armorer would remove the weapon from the actor and re-secure it until it is needed again. On Rust, that did not happen a good majority of the time. The actor still remained in possession of the weapon, whether it was in their holster or in their hands.
And can you kind of explain to the jurors how long the actors would be left with the weapons in their possession after the scene, and maybe discuss a little bit about how long it takes to do a turnaround?
There were a few times where they would have the weapon for a minute or two or so after we had cut, but then there'd be other times where we would be turning around, and that's where the camera position changes. Like if we're looking at somebody and we turn around, then we're going to look the other direction at the actor. That can take, depending on all the moving parts, 20, 30 minutes, where they would still be in possession of the weapon.
And I just want to be clear, did you testify that you saw Ms. Gutierrez provide actors with weapons without conducting a safety check?
That is correct.
Did you ever have an occasion to notice whether or not any of the actors on the set of the movie did their own safety checks?
There were some times that the actors would open their weapons and look, see either while it was being reloaded or not, opening it up and looking at it. And generally on a film set, you would not do that without the armorer present in front of you. And if you did, then the armorer would need to be called back to recheck that weapon in front of you.
Yeah, just make sure you don't fuck anything up.
So when the actors would do their own safety checks, was Ms. Gutierrez participating in that?
Sometimes she was near, sometimes she wasn't. I don't recall exactly all the time. I didn't notice a lot, but there were some times where she could have been close by or not, but she was not directly in front of the actor.
Okay.
I guess maybe we'll get more people to testify to say who handed the gun to Alec Baldwin.
And it wasn't every actor. It was, just a couple here and there.
Okay. Did you ever take note of how Ms. Gutierrez would load ammunition into her fanny pack?
Yes.
Okay.
And bug spray, because at that time we had the sun and bugs. After we moved up to the church, we had a scene.
Scenes are being filmed on the set. Are you present every time a scene is being filmed?
95% of the time, unless I need to use the restroom or something.
Okay. Were scenes being filmed that morning before lunch?
Yes.
And were you present for those?
Yes.
Do you recall if any of those scenes involved the use of firearms?
I'm not sure about the first scene. I don't remember what we shot. The second part was before lunch, right after we moved up to the church. We had a scene. I'd like to say that use weapons, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. During that scene, did you see any of the handoff of the weapon from the armorer to the actor?
I did not.
Okay. And then at some point, do you go to lunch?
Yes.
And when lunch is over, tell us what happens.
After lunch, I had gotten a ride up to set from our base camp, which was just a few minutes away down the road, and I had walked from where they drop us off up to where the church is, and was waiting for the rest of the crew and the rest of the departments to get to set as well. And so I sat down on the end of a tailgate that was nearby. I believe it was an electric truck, but I'm not positive.
Okay. Tell us what happened after that.
Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
I was talking to whoever was sitting next to me, maybe a locations person, I don't remember. And the sound of a gun went off, or I heard the sound of a gun. And I looked over at who was sitting next to me and I said, are we rehearsing? Because I didn't know that we were back in at that point. I hadn't heard anything on the radio about us being back in and from lunch. And I said, I didn't hear anybody call, fire in the hole, or normally like you would hear, the armorer would say quarter load, half load, full load, whatever type of ammunition that they are shooting. And none of that was said. So as soon as I said that, I grabbed the bag, my normal bag, and I ran towards the church. I wasn't very far from it. And as I was approaching the door, I heard medic emergency come over the radio.
And are you the only medic on set?
I am.
Okay. So when you heard medic emergency on the radio, did that information tell you where to go?
No.
How did you know where to go?
Oh my god, that must have been so traumatizing. Like she's like the only one. There's two people that are injured.
I was there. I was sitting there, outside the church waiting.
Okay, understood. Please proceed.
So I got to the door. And one of the things that we are taught when you're becoming an EMT is your scene needs to be safe before you go into it. So I stood at the door and I looked around to see what was happening, and I asked what happened, and somebody said, Helena was shot or the gun went off, something to that effect. And I looked down at Helena, who had been sitting at that point to my right, and Joel was on the left in obvious pain. And Alec Baldwin was at the back of the church from me.
Right, because I'm wondering what channel would she have been on? Would she have been on like the, what was it? The channel where Dave would announce like cold gun? Because didn't they talk about that? That whether or not Dave announced cold on the radio, and then like the lawyer was asking the grip, like, oh, well, you're probably on a different channel. Maybe you just didn't hear it.
Obvious pain. And Alec Baldwin was at the back of the church from me, the opposite end of the church from me. And then I looked down at Helena again, and as I started going towards her, I believe it was our camera operator, Reed, had asked her if she could feel her legs. And for one, I believe she said yes. For the other one, she said no. And so I knew that there was some sort of spinal injury at that point. And as I was going towards her, I could see the blood dripping from her back onto the church floor.
Was she still seated at this point, or was she?
She was leaning kind of on a pew.
Okay.
And in my smaller bag, I carry trauma shears, and so I started cutting up the back of her jacket to try to find where she was bleeding from. And at some point in time, I believe it was Ann Shim, our second AD, asked me if there's anything that I needed or she could do for me. And before that, I'm sorry, I called out on the radio for somebody to call 911. We would need an ambulance. And Ann then asked me if I needed anything, and I asked her to get me my bigger trauma bag, because that's where I keep my trauma-related items. And she did, and I asked her to also call Matt Hemmer, who's one of our electricians. I asked her to call him because he had some previous military experience medically, and he was one of the people I knew I could get up there to help me. Being the only medic and 2 patients is not easy. And so I had him just take over for Joel while I tended to Helena.
And so if you can kind of explain to us what kind of treatment you attempted with regard to Ms. Hutchins.
When I cut up the front of her, or the back of her jacket, I'm sorry, I grabbed some gauze and I put it on the one hole that I could find at that point. And I asked, at that point, I believe it was Reed was next to me. I gave him a glove and I asked him to hold that gauze there. And sometime in the meantime, we had moved the pews, or the guys had moved the pews away and laid her down. And I went to the front of her to cut up the front of her shirt, to the chest area, to try to find the other hole, knowing that Joel had been shot. I knew that it was a through and through, or in one side out the other.
You already suspected that it was a through and through?
Yes, because
Okay.
because of the way that Joel was screaming in pain. I knew he had likely, whatever had gone through her had gone into him as well.
Okay, please proceed.
So I cut up the front and I could not find an entrance wound, and so I had to keep looking until I found the other wound. I didn't know what was entrance and what was exit at that point. And when I did, I grabbed another gauze that I have, and I put it there to apply pressure. And I'm not sure at what point. I think I asked Serge or somebody else who was nearby to hold that and apply pressure while I went and grabbed oxygen.
Okay, and so give us just a little bit of information about your oxygen apparatus and what you did with that.
It's in my main bag, so I grabbed my main bag and pulled it over, and it's a non-rebreather, so it's the mask that goes over the face, and it has a bag at the bottom that inflates, and so the oxygen is delivered that way through the mask. It's got the things go around the back of the head, hold the mask on.
True. I want to see Hannah's face. I mean, we did see some she looked pretty sad when there were 2 people that went up to testify. She started to look sad when Joel Souza was testifying about it, and what was the other person? Maybe the camera grip. I forgot who it was. There was another person where she looked like she was sad. Jensen Ackles. What's Jensen Ackles in? I'm not really familiar with him.
Okay, and just to be clear, we heard some testimony earlier in the trial about Ms. Hutchins being intubated. Did you have anything to do with that process?
I did not.
Okay.
Wait, I just want to make an announcement. Trial. Oh my God, the judge. We have an early release day, y'all. It's a half day today. I guess the trial's over for the day. All right. Well, we'll catch up soon.
Go ahead and proceed.
So I put oxygen on her, and I called back to the ambulance. On the radio. I'm sorry. I called back on the radio to make sure, to have somebody call back, or whoever was communicating with 911, that we would need 2 ambulances and a bird at that point, because I knew Joel would need an ambulance and she was going to need a helicopter.
You already knew she was going to need a helicopter.
With that kind of trauma, yes. We are 15, 18 minutes from the hospital, from town. And with the way that she was bleeding, I knew she was gonna need more than we could provide, or an ambulance could provide, or Santa Fe hospitals could provide. She needed to go to the trauma center in Albuquerque.
Okay. And do you have any knowledge about the condition that a patient has to be in order for the helicopter to take off?
They need to be stabilized.
And do you know why that is, given your medical training?
I do not.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, Jensen Ackles, Soldier Boy, the crazy white guy that was like frozen or something. Was he like supposed to be kind of like an evil version of Captain America, right? He was frozen for a bit, or maybe they locked him up somewhere. Oh, the one that was supposed to go against Homelander, right? Oh my God. Yeah, that was a handsome little fella. Interesting.
After you called for 2 ambulances and a helicopter, what did you do at that point in time?
I just continued. Helena was fighting. She didn't want the oxygen on her face. She didn't want anybody holding anything on her. She was fighting. And Serge was there too.
Were you, after we understand that you were providing oxygen and that Ms. Hutchins was struggling with that, was there anything else that happened other than that before paramedics arrived and took over that you can recall?
Oh, sorry. I was like, lost my thought. It panned to Hannah for a second there. Jensen Ackles, so dreamy. I mean, he's not Viggo Mortensen.
Was there anything else that happened?
I don't know. There's Hannah right there. She's listening.
Happened other than that before paramedics arrived and took over that you can recall?
There was a point in time when I first had walked in, there were still people inside, and so I had said to whoever was there, AD wise, to remove anybody that was in the church that didn't need to be there. If they weren't some of the people that I had asked to help, then they needed to be removed. Alec being one of them. He was still in the church shortly after I got in there. Sorry, I'm bouncing backwards a little bit.
No, it's okay. So you asked an assistant director to do that for you?
I believe either assistant director or PA, somebody.
And a PA is a production assistant?
Production assistant, which is when you're first trying to get in the union as in their union as an AD, you have to become a PA first, and you have to have so many days of PA work that you submit to the union before you can start as the next, I believe it's the second is the...
Okay, all right, understood. So whoever it was that you spoke to and you asked them to remove Mr. Baldwin and any other unnecessary people, did that person do that for you?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't watch, did I watch Supernatural? Wait, no, I'm thinking it was Heroes. Heroes is different than Supernatural, right? Is Supernatural the one with, who else is in it? Heroes is the one with Hayden Panettiere, right? And like the Asian guy?
And at some point, did paramedics arrive?
Yes.
Do you have any idea how long it took them to get there?
It felt like forever. I believe, though, it was, I don't have an exact time. I believe 12, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And I do believe that there was before the ambulance arrived, there might have been somebody else, a police officer, maybe that was around, but ambulance-wise, it was quite some time.
Okay, and do you recall a police officer coming in with a medical bag and handing items to you?
I do, vaguely, but I do.
Okay. In your medical training, are you aware of the procedure that's done when a person is intubated, even though you didn't participate in that in this case?
Yes.
And are you aware that sometimes...
Ooh, it's a long one.
Cross exam.
Supernatural had Jensen Ackles, Jared Padalecki. Former was Dean Winchester, Sam Whitten. No idea. I have no idea who any of those people are. It's a good TV show.
I'm going to start with this incident you talked about on direct with the ammunition and Ms. Gutierrez putting it into her fanny pack, okay?
Okay.
So first, you don't know the difference between blanks and dummies, right?
I do not visually.
Right, and is what you saw in that one instance Sarah Zachary bringing Hannah Gutierrez the different boxes of ammunition?
She was next to Hannah. I'm not sure exactly where the boxes were staged.
Right, but you saw Sarah bring her a box, and then Ms. Gutierrez take the rounds and put them in her fanny pack, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you don't know if Sarah had shaken those boxes before she brought, or those rounds before she brought them, right?
I do not.
Can metal prop guns that can't fire, like replicas, like gun replicas, would those require safety checks?
I can tell you, I would not know if somebody showed me put a plastic gun near me or one that could fire. So whichever way you were referring to replica, I do not know. Because I would consider that a prop gun versus something the armorer would be in charge of.
So you are not, did you just say you don't know the difference between a replica gun and a real gun?
If I were not to see them, touch them in front of me, no, I would not.
Are you aware whether a replica gun even requires safety checks?
I'm confused by your words. Do you mean if you mean a rubber gun, that does not need safety checks. You would not check a rubber gun. But if it is a gun that you put ammunition of any kind in, whether it's dummy or, whatever other the quarter loads that they use, then those would need to be checked for safety. But a rubber gun would not.
And you're saying that despite never working as an armor before, right?
That is correct. I am not an armorer.
And you've never even worked in props as a props assistant, have you?
I have not worked in props. That is not my craft.
And have you ever worked on a set where there was actually a part-time armor?
Part-time? No.
Right.
Day players? Yes, but not part-time.
Great
So
show.
who
Which
is
one?
in charge of the gun cart when the armor has to go to the restroom?
That would, I've never been in that situation. If somebody needed, if the armorer was in the restroom, I would assume we would wait until the armorer was available to do their job. That would not be somebody for any other department that I am aware of.
When you saw this incident with Sarah Zachary bringing Hannah this ammunition, and you saw Hannah, you said put it in a fanny pack, right?
Correct.
You don't know if those were blanks or dummies, do you?
I do not.
And were you aware that Ms. Gutierrez's fanny pack had multiple separators in it?
I was not. I did not. I just
Hey,
saw her
Lauren.
pouring them in. I did not see anything other than the pouring motion.
And you don't follow Ms. Gutierrez or Sarah Zachary all day on set, do you?
I do not.
And you don't know if there were safety checks done that were out of your presence, do you?
I do not.
Is it true that you have filed a lawsuit against David Halls, PDQ, Seth Kinney, and Sarah Zachary, and Hannah Gutierrez?
Yes, it is true.
Among others, right?
Correct.
And in that lawsuit, you claim that you've been traumatized by the incident, right?
Absolutely.
And you are actually seeking money.
I mean, she clearly looks pretty traumatized testifying on the stand. All right, let's see where they're going at this. Like, oh, you're just doing this for money to better your lawsuit. Dun, dun, dun.
In that lawsuit, you claim that you've been traumatized by the incident, right?
Absolutely.
And you are actually seeking money damages in that lawsuit for extreme emotional distress?
That is correct.
Did you in fact obtain a civil judgment against Sarah Zachary in that lawsuit for a sum of money?
It has been entered into judgment, yes.
And your case against Ms. Gutierrez, that's still pending, right?
That is correct.
Do you believe that your testimony here today is going to help you in your civil case against her?
I'm not here for my civil case. I'm here for this case.
I understand what you're here for, ma'am, but do you believe that your testimony here is going to help you in that case?
I'm not thinking about that case. I'm thinking about the fact that had our armorer or our first AD done their jobs, we would not be here. A woman would not be dead. A mother would not be gone.
And you filed a civil lawsuit over this?
Yes.
For your damages?
Correct.
To get money?
Not for money. It's not how it started.
And you, ma'am, are an EMT basic or an EMT? What is your EMT training?
EMT. There is an EMT, there's EMT advanced or advanced EMT, and there's paramedic.
And you do have a certification, right?
Yes, I do.
Are you licensed through the state of New Mexico?
I am, and the state of California, as well as national
Oh, sorry, this captions are really off. Okay, I'm gonna take off the captions.
registry.
In fact, you also have medical experience working at a hospital for almost 3 years,
That
right?
is correct.
And that was in an overflow unit for the emergency room?
Oh, wait, where is she going with this? Is she trying to say that, like, hey, you have previous, like, hospital experience. Like, how are you traumatized about this? You see this stuff all the time. Oh my God, is that what she's gonna say? I'm slowing down. Ah, where are we going with this?
In fact, you also have medical experience working at a hospital for almost 3 years,
That
right?
is correct.
And that was in an overflow unit for the emergency room?
We need to approach.
Yo, she's gonna be like, how many gunshot wounds have you seen? So why are you traumatized about this? You've seen gunshot wounds before, haven't you? You've seen people die before, haven't you? Oh no. Oh no, is that where we're going?
What is your experience? You did say you worked at the hospital, but what is your experience with treating gunshot wounds?
I think she's going there. Oh, y'all, I got a crystal ball right here.
I do not have experience with gunshot wounds. They were not on the floor I worked on.
Why wouldn't you be trained on that type of injury when you're dealing on a set with real guns?
I am trained for it. You asked about my experience at the hospital.
Okay, so you are trained with treating gunshot wounds.
Correct.
But you just don't have experience actually applying that training. Is that fair?
Not in the hospital setting or outside of it, correct.
You said on direct that you had 2 trauma bags?
I have my normal bag, which has, it's a 96% bag. It's kind of like a walking Walgreens, but it has gauze in it and trauma shears in case something else is needed until I get my main trauma bag.
Did you have any equipment with you on that day specifically addressed to treating a gunshot wound?
No.
You didn't have chest seals?
No.
Did you have any IVs?
I am not licensed to start IVs.
Well, that's why a lot of people who are involved in this situation that's traumatic, that's why they're also suing for trauma as well. The camera grip went up there and said that. I don't know who else is suing, but I bet you there's a good amount of people that are suing productions, the team, the AD, Hannah, and whoever else.
So I would not. And we are on a movie set where there should be no gunshot wounds.
Well, are there other things on a movie set that could cause a thoracic puncture on the set?
Not generally. Not generally. If there is going to be something that's going to happen where something more traumatic like that could happen, then we would request a standby ambulance to be on set with us so that we had all the gear and equipment needed, as well as additional medics to help.
But this movie had knives involved in it, right?
I could not tell you.
And horses?
There were horses.
Snakes?
There were wild snakes. We did not bring them onto set.
Can we approach?
Okay, now I'm a little confused. Where are we going with this? So in her lawsuit, she's saying because there were people that were being neglectful, it led to her having a very, I guess, emotional distress. It wasn't just like she was just like working at her hospital job and she saw gunshot wounds coming in left and right, and that's why she's suing for emotional distress. It's because she was working on a set where this shit shouldn't have fucking happened. All right, where are we going with this? I like this lawyer. I like her. Maybe because I just like her hair. I don't know. I like her. She's okay so far.
Do you know who intubated Miss Hutchins?
I do not. I can assume, but I do not.
You said, you can assume. Well, I mean, did you see it happen?
I did not.
Okay. Prior to all of these concerns that you're telling us about here today with Ms. Gutierrez, you never raised any of those concerns with anyone?
I did not.
Not even the safety director, David Halls?
I did not.
And you said on direct, I believe, that prior to the shot that you heard on that day, that I think I heard you say, I want to get it clear, that you did not hear Dave Halls yell out, rehearsals up, first team on set. Did you ever hear that?
I did not.
You never heard any call out that they were going to do that set?
No, not on the radio. I did not hear it. It doesn't mean it didn't happen and I didn't hear it, but
No, I just want to know what you heard.
I did not hear that, no.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, we're done.
Ms. Schaefer, are chest seals and IVs customary for movie set medics?
Chest seals, if you can get them, it's not like we can go to a hospital and pick up equipment or products that we would keep in our bags. Whatever we generally keep in our bags is something that we buy over the counter.
I feel like if the defense attorney is pissing you off, that means they're doing their job. But then I'm also like, but then imagine how the jury feels about this. I feel like the jury would just like roll their eyes.
There are ways to make chest seals, but they're not the most, they sometimes hurt more than help. IVs would be something that needs to be ordered, and if you do not have medical direction or a doctor that works at an ER that says, yes, you can work to your scope of practice or your license level, if you don't have that, which most medics in New Mexico don't.
I've never seen 90 Day Fiance. I feel like there's a lot of people that remind you of people from 90 Day Fiance. Is that the one where they're like in an island naked together or something and they're married for 90 days or something like that?
Most medics don't have that medical direction. You are not allowed to do that outside of a hospital setting or outside of if you are employed by a EMS.
Okay. And shifting gears, you were asked on cross-examination some questions about whether or not safety checks of ammunition would have taken place outside your presence. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
In your experience, are the safety checks of the ammunition done in the presence of the crew and the cast?
Yes.
Do you know if there's a reason for that?
I'm not sure.
Well, if a safety check of ammunition was done outside the presence of the cast and crew, would the cast and crew have knowledge as to the level of safety associated with that ammunition?
Not if it was not done in front of them, no. But the cast and crew are all welcome to ask for it to happen.
Okay.
Roddenborn, I actually did not hate him. I did not hate him. I found Elaine more annoying, if anything. I thought Roddenborn was okay. He was definitely the most competent one on that team of lawyers. He felt the most competent. Everyone else just kind of felt like, well, we know Elaine was a hot mess. Nadelhoff, had a lot of, I don't know, he stomped around a lot. I felt like he acted very petulant.
You were asked some questions about a civil lawsuit, and you were asked if you were testifying today because you thought it would help your civil lawsuit.
Correct.
And I think your response was, you didn't do it for money, that's not how it started. So I'd like you to, and then I think you got cut off. I'd like you to go ahead and finish that.
The reason that I brought any kind of lawsuit to anybody in the beginnings is because I wanted change in our industry. I did not want something like this to be able to happen again to anybody else, to their families, to the crew that knows them as family. I wanted some sort of change to happen, some policy change, whether it be required to have a standby ambulance or it be required to have additional medics if there's going to be big stunts or big gunfire or anything that could potentially cause, somebody to become injured. I wanted that change in our industry because on that show there were roughly 75 crew. That is minimal to compared to what I normally would have on set. I would have no less than 300 usually before I would be approved to have an additional medic to come and help me. That is just not okay. That is not okay. And being the only medic there with 2 patients, knowing my resources were not close enough to help in any significant way is what.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that it was just only her. It's Americans finding love outside of America, and their lovers come to America. They get 90 days American visa within which they gotta get married, which rarely happens because it's true. Wait, what? Is that true? I had no idea it was Americans and like people that were foreigners. I thought it was the one where, I don't know, 2 people are on an island naked together and then they're married for like 90 days or something like that. I don't know. But I guess that defeats the name of 90 Day Fiancé. I've never watched it before, no.
But I wanted to change.
And have you suffered from extreme trauma as a result of this?
Yes. Can I just expand?
Sure. Okay. Upon my questioning, you asked I asked you about your claim for emotional distress, and you responded and asked if you could expand on that. The court is going to let you. Please expand.
Thank you. I went home that night, and I looked at my little boy, who's the same age as Helena's son, and all I could think about is how I could not save his mother's life, and how he was going to grow up without a mother, and how her spouse lost the love of his life.
I did not expect this testimony. I did not expect this testimony. So you're going to, and I mean no harm to you, but we're going to strike that testimony, okay? So disregard that testimony,
I mean, that's a little too late. They already heard it.
okay? All right. Wait,
Are you ready for the next witness? Your
okay.
Oh, jury question?
Her direct, her cross-examination, and then her redirect, except when she said, can I expand on that, and then went into,
Are you ready for the next witness? Your
yes, I am.
State calls Mamie Mitchell.
Is it Amy Mitchell? Is that what you guys heard? Amy Mitchell?
How long have you been a substitute teacher?
I think around 2.5 weeks.
So prior to being a substitute teacher, what did you do for a living?
Wait, they don't want her to state her name? What? Okay, she's a teacher.
I think I've worked with an armor about 24 times on 24 films. Sometimes,
Yeah, go ahead.
sometimes maybe a gun is used one time, and if the armor was brought in for that, I'm not really aware of that. But when guns are really a part of a script, about 24 times.
Okay. Safe to say you have a lot of experience with
Did most of her testimony get struck? No, just the part where she talked about going home and then looking at her son and da 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 da.
armorers on movie sets.
I do.
As the script supervisor, are you present for every single take that is filmed for every single scene?
Unless it's a second unit, and I have a second unit script supervisor, but for every first unit,
How do you spell supervisor? Is it with a E at the end or? Or oh. Supervisor, right? Visor?
shot I am on, I'm there for every take.
On the set of Rust, were you there for every take?
Yes.
Okay. So, I am going to ask you if you noticed any differences between Ms. Gutierrez and the other armorers that you worked with on the previous 24 occasions.
No objection.
We got 3% looking good for Hannah, 62% says not good, 19% not sure yet, and 15% I just want to see the results. Yeah, there are some times where I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to answer. Just let me see the results, please. I got you.
Ma'am, do you recall the question?
No, unfortunately not.
Really? This prosecutor annoys me? Really? I like her. I like them all. I'm not annoyed by anyone, I don't think. Oh, there's one lawyer that does annoy me, but it's because he talks so slow. I'm like, hurry up and talk faster. But yeah, everyone else I'm cool with everyone.
Ma'am, do you recall the question?
No, unfortunately not.
How did Ms. Gutierrez compare to the other previous 24 armorers that you worked with?
I found her to be inexperienced and did not present in the way that I'm used to seeing professional armorers, union armorers, on a film set. It was different.
Did you find her behavior on the film set to be professional?
I did not.
Did you ever take notice of where firearms were stored during filming or around the set?
I saw them on her cart.
And when you saw them on her cart, was she present?
Not all the time.
And was that unusual?
Everything about the cart was unusual.
When you say everything about the cart was unusual, can you explain to the jury what you mean?
In my experience, what I have experienced on film sets is that the armorers are very quiet, focused, and very organized. Everything is very organized. And they're very focused. I don't know if I said that. They're very focused and sort of methodical about everything. Their movements are very methodical.
I'm going to take you back to your concerns about the cart specifically. Can you explain what your concerns were with the state of the prop cart?
Well, I just never seen anything like it. It just reminded me, I mean, not that it reminded me, but the best way I can describe it is it was like that
Bro, that shit was disorganized. We saw it, we're like, what is that?
drawer in your kitchen where you just put stuff that doesn't really go anywhere else, the random things, and you go in to look for something. And
That's me. I have a drawer in my kitchen that has like soy sauce, plastic forks, chopsticks, McDonald's barbecue sauce, hot sauce from Taco Bell. Like there's this drawer that I have where I just like throw all this shit in there. Rubber bands. How did she know?
it was messy to me. It looked different than what I was used to.
Did it seem organized?
No, it did not seem organized.
At any point in time, were you aware that there were what I'm going to refer to as accidental discharges that took place on set?
I was on the set at the cabin.
Hang on, you're a step ahead of me. Were you aware of the accidental discharges?
Yes.
Okay. Were you present for the accidental discharges?
Yes.
Okay, can you go ahead and explain to us what happened with regard to those accidental discharges?
Well, I believe the first one, I was walking.
Did she have a lawsuit as well? I have no idea. I guess they'll probably get to that later in her testimony.
Shall I describe the set? I was.
Wait, sorry. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. Guys, get up, stretch. Oh God, my back. Oh, my knees. Fastest corgi in the West. This is Dr. Curry's mom. Stop. You're mixing all the trials already? Okay. Yeah, I'm actually, I don't know why she keeps saying accidental discharge, but oh well.
From here to where those people are back there, away, walking back, we had camped out over here for a wide shot. And so we kind of moved back, and as I was walking back, there was a gunshot went off. There was a gunshot, and it was frightening.
And do you know the circumstances of that accidental discharge?
Well, it was one of them that I know about now.
No, that's okay. In terms of when you heard the gunshot go off, why was it frightening? It's a Western. You know, we've heard that there's lots of guns and blanks and.
Because it doesn't happen.
What doesn't happen?
Guns do not just go off on a film set.
In your career, do you recall having that ever happen to you?
I do not.
And can you give the jury a little bit of background on, given that guns go off on movie sets because there's blank ammunition in the gun and guns are being shot, why would it have startled you? What's the procedure usually for gunshots?
Fire in the hole. Someone yells, "Fire in the hole."
And what does that tell you when someone yells that? To tell us what you're doing.
Fingers in your ears, mouth open. You have to keep the mouth open.
Why do you keep your mouth open?
It helps your eardrums. Something about that. That's what we do.
Really?
I've known that forever. You keep your mouth open and you go like this.
Oh.
Okay. So
you protect your hearing.
With regard to the accidental discharges, did anyone call fire in the hole?
No.
And how many accidental discharges occurred while you were working on set?
2.
And do you recall if they were the same day?
They were the same day, same set.
Did they cause you to feel concerned?
I was concerned and I was confused.
What do you mean confused?
Shortly after I was hired by Roe Waters to do this movie.
No, I'm sorry. I think I understand, and I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
So let me.
No, what was she going with that?
Let me take you to. I'm sorry. Let me back up.
Okay.
Ma'am, you indicated that you are on the set of Rust. You were present for the filming of every take of every scene. Is that right?
Yes.
And I am. Wait a minute. Let's get out of there. I am going to show you what is marked as State's Exhibit 164. I'm going to ask to have it entered into evidence admitted every time the camera. Is that right? So, Ms. Mitchell, you're present every time they're rolling camera. Is that right? On Rust?
With the exception of sometimes, just a couple of times.
Let me ask you this. Do you recall meeting with me and me showing you a video that I wanted you to talk about? That was from October 17th. Do you recall that?
No.
Okay.
I don't. Could you refresh my memory, please?
I will refresh your memory. We're going to have to unplug because I'm going to have to refresh.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And publish. Ma'am, do you recall the date that this particular take was filmed? I'm sorry. Hey, hang on just a second. In order for you to refer to your notes, we need you to have a discussion with us.
Okay.
So, as you sit here today, do you recall the date that this was filmed?
I don't recall the date, but it's in my script.
Okay. Would it refresh your memory if you looked at your notes?
Yes.
Okay, so what I want you to do, listen to me carefully.
I am.
I want you to look at your notes, and then I just want you to keep that information to yourself.
Wait a second, don't look at your notes. They get to approach you and see what you're looking at.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I'm going to have this. When you look in your notes, just take note of the date and then wait for a follow-up question, okay?
Okay.
Does council wish to approach to see what she's looking at?
I don't need to see her notes. Do you want to see her notes?
I'd like to see it.
Sure. If you can.
Should be October 20th. It's October 20th. No?
Stop for a second.
Wait for her to ask a question.
I told you to wait for a follow-up question.
Sorry.
Don't just speak, okay?
Okay.
Wait with us.
Okay. I found it.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay, that's a memory refresh.
Okay, has your memory been refreshed as to the date?
Yes.
And let me just ask you, and you can close, take note of the date, okay? And is there something that's on the screen that helps you refer to your notes? No, go ahead and answer my question.
Yes.
What's on the screen that helps you refer, that helps you find that in your notes?
125 Charlie, the scene number.
Okay, so the 125C is the scene number. Is that what you said?
That's the slate number. The scene is 125. This is the slate number.
Okay. And so are you able to compare your notes to the information on that slate?
Yes.
And were you present for the filming of this take?
I was.
And what was the date that this was filmed on?
October 17th, 2021.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and publish it now.
Thank you.
Oh, we're in. Let's go.
So we're here. He's camera left? No, that's it. I'm sorry?
It's my understanding that part of your job is continuity. Is that right?
Correct.
So I'm going to ask you, can you identify this prop that we're looking at right here on Mr. Baldwin?
Yes.
I think they said he had one live ammunition on his, right?
What is that prop?
It's his over-the-shoulder holster.
Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in.
And
Bandolier.
his holster or bandolier, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And what are these things that are right here?
Bullets.
And is that the way that the bandolier was loaded on October 17th?
Correct.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. Ms. Mitchell, I'm going to take you to the date of October 21st, 2021. Were you working on set that day?
Yes.
We understand that there was some filming in the morning, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Do you recall taking a lunch break that day?
I do.
And, well, let me back up. We've heard a lot of testimony that the camera crew walked off that day.
Yes.
And did you have a discussion with Mr. Souza and Ms. Hutchins about making the day?
I did.
Okay, without saying what they said, can you just tell us what you said to them in terms of that conversation?
I said, I turned to Helena and I said, I shoot with one camera all my career until shooting with two cameras became the thing. I said, and then I looked at Joel and I said, if we're organized and you have a plan, we can make the day with one camera. And Helena said, I shoot with the one camera too all the time.
Okay, provided only for context. So we understand that there was some filming and then you went to lunch. I want you to start after lunch where it's our understanding that there's something going on in the church preparing for a scene. If you can describe that to us, please. Do you recall, let me ask you this, when you went into the church after lunch, were other people already there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And
After lunch.
after lunch, we're only going to talk about after lunch.
Okay. Yes.
So when you were in the church after lunch, who do you recall being in the church?
Doran Curtin.
And Ms. Curtin, what was her role on set?
Wardrobe.
Okay. Keep going, please.
She had blood. She was going to refresh blood.
Fake blood, I assume.
Fake blood.
Okay.
I switched places with her because she's real tall, and I said, could I stand in front of you? And we laughed, and I went in front of her. Helena, Serge, my director, Ross, Zach, Alec Baldwin in the pew with the gun, Karen Kuhn.
Who's Karen Kuhn?
She's a still photographer.
Thank you.
And she was on the side.
Okay, thank you.
Coming into the church, I think there was a special effects guy there, maybe the supervisor.
Okay. Let me ask you this. When you came into the church, did Mr. Baldwin already have his gun?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay, so you didn't see how he got the gun or who handed him the gun?
I did not.
Okay, so you come into the church.
Dave Hall was there also.
Okay, Mr. Halls was there. How long before the gun goes off are you in the church?
Not very
Fionn, were you trying to make a joke there?
long at all.
Okay, so when you come into the church, you've indicated these people were there. What was happening in the moments before the gun went off?
I switched places with Doran. Helena was here, and
Hi,
she's
lady.
doing her thing with the light, you know, looking at him. She's doing her lighting. And people are not static on a film set. So it's a dance. And she's doing this and looking at there was an onboard monitor, and Joel is looking, and they're
No, don't push the mic away, ma'am.
there, and she's doing her thing and looking at him and that. And I don't know what everybody else was doing, but that's what they were doing. Because
Okay.
I saw the camera, I had an idea of what shot it was, one of three. I hadn't seen the lens yet, so I wasn't sure what it was yet. And that's what they were doing.
And then what happened?
And then I took my phone out.
It's okay.
I took my phone
yeah.
out. Oh, the actor was practicing on his own.
Mr. Baldwin.
Yeah, he was practicing, and as I was doing, he was practicing, and then when I looked down to my phone to get got the picture. I was going to check his wardrobe, make sure everything matched.
And let me stop you. As a part of your continuity job, do you frequently take photos and videos on your phone?
I frequently take photos.
Okay.
Sometimes it flips. I take photos.
Okay. And when you said sometimes it flips, on occasion, do you end up with a live photo or a short video?
Yes.
Okay. So you're using your phone for continuity.
Constantly.
Okay. What happens then?
So I got my picture, and I was going to check his wardrobe, and right when I was doing that explosion.
And when that happens, what do you do?
My body had it was a shock, and then I heard a guttural moaning, and I looked around, and my director was crab crawling backwards, and then I turned around to look at Alec, and when I did, she was falling in my direction, and I ran.
And when you say she was falling, you mean Ms.
Helena
Hutchins?
Hutchins was falling, and I ran
And why did you run?
to get help
And so,
and away from danger.
okay, where did you go?
I ran out the door, down the steps to the left, towards one of the set. It was a set deck truck, one of the trucks, and with my phone, and I start dialing 911.
And are you the person that called 911 in this case?
I am.
And when you spoke to 911, how did you describe the incident that you were calling them for? Ms. Mitchell?
I believe I said we've had 2 people shot accidentally on a film set. We need help immediately.
And why did you use the word accidentally?
I did not want her to think there was an active shooter or a mass shooting. I needed and gather an army together. I wanted to come right away.
Okay.
Help right away.
And you thought that if
When we're done with this, should we listen to the podcast that Hannah Reid was on? She was on this podcast about a month before the shooting happened. And I don't know. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see what she says.
if law enforcement or medics thought that it was an active shooter, it may take them more time. Is that what you mean?
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, because we do have an early court day, so might as well do something, right? Where's Lechon?
And ma'am, have you also filed a civil lawsuit against the production company and other folks in this case?
I have.
Are you testifying today because you think it's going to help your civil lawsuit?
No, it's not going to help my civil lawsuit at all.
Are you testifying truthfully today?
I am.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll pass the witness.
Oh, beat him to the punch. So the defense is going to ask us anyway, so I'll just ask him myself.
I want to go back to your movies with the other armors. You said there was about 24 of them, give or take. Okay. On those, did you ever have a situation where there was a part-time armor, to your knowledge, somebody that did part-time armory and part-time something else?
I think there might have been one or two.
Were those day people, or was that part-time? What's that term you used earlier, day? When they just come in for a day and then they're gone?
A day player?
Day player. Were those day players, or was that a part-time armor?
Do you mean was it a prop master who also does armory?
Yes, even a day player that did both.
I don't remember. It's
Okay.
a day player.
Okay. Now, with regard to seeing the cart you mentioned, do you know whether when you saw the cart sometimes whether those firearms on there were real or whether they were replica firearms?
Not to my knowledge. I think everything was a real firearm.
Okay. Are you not aware whether there were any replica firearms, any fake type firearms on Rust?
No.
Okay. Now, also, you were aware that the armor would be called to scenes sometimes, right? That she'd have to be on a scene when they were filming?
I don't know what you mean by on a scene.
Okay, in or around it, when firearms were being used, she had to be in or around that scene?
All armorers have to be present when a firearm is being used.
Okay, and that wasn't my question. My question was, did you know on this movie set that the armorer sometimes had to be in or near the scene when firearms were being used?
Yes.
Okay. So on those times, it would be impossible for the armorer to be at her cart too, right?
Well, I've never heard of that before.
Well, kind of hard to be in two places at one time, isn't it? That's kind of the point.
I don't know. This is helping him. I
Now,
don't think
did
so.
you know whether this cart was shared with props and armory men?
I think it was.
So when you saw the messy, and you described it, your kitchen drawer where you put everything, do you know if the props people were coming and putting their stuff on it too?
I think they were.
Okay. And so do you know who might have caused the things to be in different places? Was it props, or you don't know who was doing that? Do you?
I do.
Who?
They were all doing it.
Okay. So did you see him?
Yes.
You saw Sarah Zachary putting stuff on it?
3 women at a cart. Sometimes.
Sometimes I'd like to be a lawyer, but then I change my mind because I would be more Elaine than Camille.
Now, with regard to the discharge that you said you heard, you remember that?
Which one?
Well, you described when you were walking. I think you said you heard a sound, a shot. Is that right?
A misfire.
Yes. Okay.
2 of them.
Okay. Did you find out about that well after, or were you actually there?
I was there. It almost blew my ears out.
Okay. Now, do you know whether any of that was special effects?
It was not special effects.
Okay. Did you report that to anybody?
Everyone, I didn't have to report it. Everybody knew it.
Okay. Everybody in production?
I don't know about production. Everyone on the set heard it.
Okay. Do you know if Dave Halls heard it?
Dave Halls was there.
Okay. So he would have known, so you wouldn't have had to tell him, right?
Everyone who was at that set, on that set, and there were a lot of people, heard the gun go off accidentally, twice.
Okay. Different topic. In the script, do you remember whether it required a draw in the scene on October 21st, 2021, after lunch? Did that scene require a draw from the holster? For the actor, for Mr. Baldwin to draw from his holster?
It did.
Okay. Do you remember if that required him to point the weapon?
That's not the shot that we discussed before lunch.
Okay. So was that in the script or not?
No.
I have nothing further on.
I mean, she has a civil lawsuit. I'm assuming there's been some interaction between her team and Hannah's team before. Some animosity there.
I don't have any additional questions. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. You're
Thank you very
excused.
much. Thank you.
You too.
What did she say? She just whispered something? Get me the fuck out of here. All right, I think that's it for the day. That was a script supervisor. I don't know if I had her name right because they said it really quick. Amy Mitchell? I think that's her name. It could be wrong. Man, I wonder when is the state going to arrest? How many more other people they're going to call? I guess there's Seth Kenny they're going to call. All right, chittering. What are they talking about? Hey, Kat, how are you doing today? Dragon.
Okay, all right. So, please don't talk among yourselves about the
Early release
Good
day.
insurance. Okay, you don't have to, nobody has to nod their head on which one of you wants to know. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so not past, whether it's gonna go past the 8th, they think that they will finish their case, the day before that.
And that would be finishing both cases.
Yes. Assuming everything goes at the right clip. But then, so,
Judge, just a point of clarification. What we discussed is that we expect, hopefully, to be doing closing arguments the morning of the 7th.
okay, but that doesn't mean your deliberations are not going to go past the 8th. All right? Because once it's handed to you, it's however long you all deliberate. Okay? So I would say, in an abundance of caution, that it will go past the 8th as far as deliberations go. That's in an abundance of caution. Okay? Just knowing jurors have to get situated after they get the evidence, and then, you know, it just depends. Okay?
Happy Friday.
Am I making myself clear? Okay. All right.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Thank you. We're in recess.
All right.
Oh, it's going to be over next week. Oh, thank goodness. Because they said 3 weeks or something like that. And I was like, 3 weeks? We can't do this for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 2 weeks. Doable. All right, y'all. Just another week to go. You know what's really funny? I actually got summoned for jury duty. Which is, interesting. Does that... The state hasn't... She didn't say she's when she was going to arrest, right? They just said closing is probably going to be on Thursday. Oh, that's it? No more interactions? What? I have 3 more dates for mine? Wait, you have 3 dates for your jury duty? Yeah, it's like really weird. It's like, we won't tell you that you need to come in. You need to check the day before and see if you need to report in. I'm like, what? And you have to do it for like 3 or 5 days or something like that. You have to keep saying if you have to come in the next day. I'm like, oh, God, the suspense. Tell me now. You had to do it for last month? How long was your jury duty? Oh, they gave you 5 days for jury duty? Oh. That you have to do? Linda Blair. Wait, I like Linda Blair. I used to watch that shit. Hold on, Linda Blair. Didn't she used to host a TV show that was really creepy? Linda Blair. Wait, Linda Blair. She hosted a TV show, right? Some sort of like paranormal shit? Her name sounds so familiar. Do I see the resemblance? No. I don't know. You've done your jury duty 2 times already? My daughter just got her questionnaire for federal jury duty. Oh. Yeah, it says like jury duty should be 5 to 7 days. I'm like, okay, I can do 5-7 days, but like 3 weeks, 6 weeks, I don't know. I don't know if I can sit down for that long. I would have to get up and like stretch constantly. But I emailed them and I was like, hey, it would be cool if like, would the judge allow me to bring my seat cushion? Because like if I sit for a long time, my like body starts hurting. Especially if it's like on like a really shitty chair or if it's like a wooden bench or something like that. Like, so I don't know. I emailed them and then I think I got a reply back. I need to check that. But hopefully I can bring my rubber seat cushion for my butt. Linda Blair was the exorcist, but didn't she host a TV show though? Linda Blair TV show. I swore she hosted a TV show, no? Linda Blair. Yeah, she did. Blair was the host of the Fox Family reality series, Scariest Places on Earth from 2006. Yes, I watched that. Ah, so good. I used to watch all these like paranormal stuff when I was a kid. Fucking loved it. Your mom was once called for jury duty, and she pointed out that she was a lawyer and she was disqualified. Corky thinks Linda Blair is in The View. No. Oh, she was right. See, I am right. They pay you nothing. Yeah, we get $15 a day and travel for your car. And hopefully free parking. Oh, you haven't had to report in yet? I don't like that stuff. I leave the ghost alone. Yeah, I don't really watch the ghost stuff anymore because it doesn't scare me. But when I was a kid, I used to thought it was amazing. I thought she looked familiar. No, I can't go without the butt cushion. I would need like a fuck ton of ibuprofen. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be very painful for me to sit there for a very long time. Cause I got this $200 seat cushion that I bought. It's do you guys know Purple Mattress? They make mattresses, but their mattresses suck, but their seat cushions are really good. It makes it so there's no like pressure points on your butt when you're sitting down. All right, y'all. Let's watch the podcast, or let's listen to the podcast. Oh, I think it'll be very interesting. Shout out to Rain, who showed me this podcast. And it's called voicesofthewest.net. This podcast happened about a month before the shooting on the Rust movie set. It happened on September 11, 2021. And here's what they said. Hollywood armorer Hannah Reid joins us. She's just coming off her first movie serving as lead armorer. She learned her trade from one of the best, her father, Thel Reid, who was one of the fastest guns in the Hollywood and trained a ton of actors on how to use firearms. So let's listen to it. Cute little, I don't know. This reminds me of like web pages from back in the day, you know, just simple, easy. I have that seat cushion too. Yes. It's like, it's so good. It's so comfortable. I bring it on when I go on like long flights on airplanes and sometimes long car rides too. It really helps a lot. If you have someone in law enforcement, they will release you from jury duty too. I don't have anyone from law enforcement. I don't. Ugh. How long is it? I think she stops talking. It's like about 5 minutes in, and then she stops talking maybe at some point, but I think it's like 40 minutes. I'm going to just jump to the part where she starts talking. Oh my God, that audio. I'm sorry. Let me turn the sound down. Why is it so loud? I'm sorry.
Due to things beyond our control.
Cancellations.
Yeah, so there you have it. All right, let's move on and welcome Hannah Reid to the program. Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you guys? I'm in beautiful Livingston, Montana.
Ooh, that is beautiful.
Where is Livingston?
And this player does not allow me to speed it up. Otherwise, I would speed the shit up. But yeah, I can't. We have to listen in normal time. Can you guys hear it okay? Is it good? Your ears? I'm sorry. I didn't know it was going to be that loud. How's the audio?
Montana, located, obviously, outside. I know it's in Montana, but give us some other cross points there.
It's right outside of Yellowstone National Park, the most northern region, and it's also near Bozeman, Montana.
Okay. Now you just finished up doing a movie there as the armorer. Can you talk about the movie?
Of course, I would love to. So,
and I think the movie that she was the lead armorer of, that was a Nicolas Cage movie, right, Rain? Hannah Montana. Stop. Audio's good? Okay. Is she doing the podcast while working on the movie? My understanding was that, well, I did hear that they did start setting up for the Rust movie either in beginning of October or end of September. So I think by this point, no.
it's really cool. It was a really badass way to start off a really long and cool career, I'm hoping. But I just finished up working on The Old Way with Nick.
Yikes, this did not age well at all. Oh no, she just started her career. She said it's so cool. Yikes.
And welcome Hannah Reid to the program. Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Hi, I'm...
Yeah, so obviously, outside. I know it's in Montana, but give us some other cross points there.
It's right outside of Yellowstone.
Up doing a movie there as the armorer. Can you talk about the movie?
Of course, I would love to. So it's really cool. It was a really badass way to start off a really long and cool career, I'm hoping. But I just finished up working on The Old Way with Nicolas Cage, his very first Western.
Oh, I heard about that.
And it was also my first time being head armor as well.
And how was that?
You know, I was really nervous about it at first, and I almost didn't take the job because I wasn't sure if I was ready, but doing it, like, it went really smoothly.
How long have you been under the tutelage of your father, the great Thel Reed?
Well, it's been a press since birth.
He didn't give her a pacifier, he gave her a derringer.
You guys are so funny. No, you know, Dad's been teaching me a little bit about every now and then about guns since I was 16, but I think we really got into the stuff more just really in the last couple of years.
Is it something that you wanted to gravitate to, or because I know you have a film degree from NAU?
Yeah, originally I had planned on like working with cameras, or I really like lighting too. I wanted to do DP work, but I kind of just tried it with Dad one time, and then I noticed I had a really natural knack for it growing up around guns my whole life. So
Notice had a natural, how do you spell knack? Like a knack for things? Is it K-N-A-C-K? Knack? I had a natural knack for things. Yikes.
now I've come to realize, I'm like, oh my God, like this is a pretty sweet gig.
Well, I saw that you did some prop work too. I guess a prop maker. Is that how you started with working, or on the pictures? Or I know you worked with your dad some.
I didn't do a lot of prop work. He let me do PAing every now and then.
Yeah.
To kind of get me in the industry so I could see what I wanted to do.
Learning, yeah.
And I did. I started with background work because I thought I wanted to be an actress, but then I decided after doing it, I was like, it's not really my shtick.
I got a question for you then, because
you're way too smart.
Yeah, I was trying to
be
find
an actress.
Yeah,
I was trying to find some stuff about you, and I come across a couple of pictures that because you're hard to find on the internet. In fact, you're virtually impossible. And when they do find somebody, it's not you. But there was two pictures: Kill Katie Malone and a TV thing, Call 911, which had Hannah Reid credits. Was either one of those you?
No. So technically, I have a technical different name other than Reid. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. You've got your acting name.
Yeah, Reid's my business name.
Okay.
Yeah, technically, I have my mother's last name.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. We'll leave you.
Oh, that's why in the trial she goes by Hannah Gutierrez. Because I was thinking, does she go by Hannah Reid? But then because it might make her dad look bad to be to be messing up the Reid name, did she just go for the Hannah Gutierrez name? Okay, but legally she's known as Hannah Gutierrez. Gotcha. All right. Sorry, did you post the article with Hannah Reid and was it the Business Insider article? It was this one, right? With Nicolas Cage. This one, right? Oh, where is it? Oh, okay. Crew members from The Old Way have criticized Gutierrez Reid, Nicolas Cage. Earlier this week, the online publication The Wrap published a report citing sources from the set of The Old Way who said Gutierrez Reid exhibited poor gun safety on set. Stu, who worked on as a key grip on The Old Way, told The Wrap that Hannah Reid's behavior caused the film star Nicolas Cage to scream at her and storm off set after she fired a gun near the cast and crew for the second time in 3 days without warning. Make an announcement. You just blew my fucking eardrums out, Cage yelled before walking off the set. Brumbaugh told the publication. Two separate sources told the Daily Beast that there had been considerably less attention given to gun safety under Gutierrez Reid's leadership on the film set. There were several concerns I brought to production's attention. One source told the publication, I also been around firearms my entire life and noticed some things that were not okay, even with a loaded blank firearms. The Daily Beast went on to recount a story from a source who said Gutierrez Reid loaded a gun during production, handed it to a child actor without properly checking the weapon. Filming was stopped by camera crew who intervened and demanded that Gutierrez Reed had properly checked the firearm, the publication reported. She was reloading the gun on the ground where there were pebbles and stuff. We didn't see her check it. We don't know if something got in the barrel or not. She didn't immediately speak after the incident. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, interesting to read. We don't know if it's true or not, but yeah, interesting.
With that, unless you want to reveal it.
I mean, I go by Hannah Gutierrez. If you looked me up, you'd probably see that I used to do modeling a little bit. And then I decided that, modeling didn't really have any sustenance and people didn't really see you for anything more than face value. So I decided to get more into this line of work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did a lot of PA work over the years, especially when it was slow.
Or was she like a MySpace seed model or something like that? I saw some pictures of her, but it didn't look like modeling. It just looked like, I don't know, she was just taking pictures.
And it definitely gets you inside where you kind of like to fly on the wall and you see and hear things that sometimes people don't want you to see and hear.
Yeah, I mean, PA work was fun and everything. I PA'd for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for a couple of days.
Oh, okay.
That was really neat. Basically, my job was just to fight crackheads to keep them out of the shot.
Yeah. It's weird to me. It's almost like, working as a production assistant. It's almost like, what is the most degrading thing we can find them to do that will bore them to death so they'll leave the industry?
That's what PA stand for? Okay, production assistant.
Oh my God, absolutely. I can't tell you how many, countless fields I've just sat in all by myself, miles down the road from anything.
I think her weight just fluctuates a lot. Because when I was looking at pictures of her, she looks very different. But then again, when you're a teen / early 20s, your appearance tends to change a lot, and so does your weight as well. So I think that's why she looks so different. And also they go through different phases of makeup, hair, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've done that.
So talk more about this movie that you've just completed work on.
All right, so I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So Nick Cage was in it, obviously. He was very nice, kind of standoffish a little bit, but, as to be expected. The last day, he was pretty wacky and kind of fun, actually. I think he was excited to go home.
Yeah.
Free at last.
But, and then Ryan Armstrong, I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but she's an upcoming young actress. And oh my God, she is spectacular at what she does.
All right.
Yeah, she was just in Black Widow. She was the little girl in Black Widow.
Okay.
She's about 11 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I got
she's
to work
like a
with
child
her,
star,
teach
or
her
is she
how-
grown up now?
She's a child star right now. She's 11 years old, getting really popular. She's on American Horror Story right now as well, too.
Oh, okay. I think I know about whom you're speaking. So what's the thrust of the movie? What's it all about?
So this is a Western thriller action movie about Nick Cage, who used to be a super, he used to be a pretty bad guy. He would go around killing people mercilessly, but then he fell in love with a woman, I guess, and calmed down in life. But then one of the victims that he had grows up because he killed some dude's dad.
Is the Nick Cage movie, is that already out as well? The Western one? The only Nick Cage movies that I know that are out are the weird horror movies that he was in. The one with the animatronics, and there was another really weird me movie that he was in that was it was really odd.
And he grows up and he ends up killing Nick Cage's wife, and Nick Cage goes after him all crazy.
So it's a revenge movie.
Yeah, it's a revenge movie. It's called The Old Way because, in the future, it jumps 20 years into the future where, Nick Cage's character, Briggs, calmed down and everything.
Oh, it's out already?
But, he goes back and he does things the old way because now they have a new way of doing things, I guess.
And so what period of time is this taking place in the Old West, 1880s type?
Yeah, this is taking place in the...
Yeah, so this must be before she knew that she was hired for the Alec Baldwin movie, I guess, maybe?
The first part of it is 1862, and the second part of it was in 1882, which was a little problematic for the guns and everything.
I was going to ask
They'll
about
keep you
that.
busy, yeah.
Yeah, you had to have a complete two sets of firearms to cover those periods.
And cap and ball
Oh,
cartridge,
absolutely. And yeah, I had to explain with the director because he really wanted him to have the same gun. And I just had to explain to him, I was like, there's no way that he would have kept that same gun over 20 years, you know? Like, the firearm just evolved so rapidly during that time period. Any smart man would have, you know, moved up to a peacemaker.
If he would have kept it, he would have had a conversion cylinder on it.
Yeah.
Or he'd have got shot.
Or got shot, yeah. You can't speed load those cap and balls. I know, I've tried.
Yeah, for real.
That's one of the things I liked about News of the World. You know, he just changed cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have had a Remington. Be able to do that.
Yeah, I convinced them to kind of sway away from that. I almost got the director to change up the time period like 2 days before we shot. We all decided against it. I was like, don't do that to everybody. Don't do that to props. Don't do it to costumes. If they found out, they would kill me, you know.
So what were you supplying in terms of black powder firearms?
I was mostly, Remington. There wasn't too many, you know, like there wasn't a lot. There's a little bit of gunfire, but yeah, it was mostly just a couple Remingtons.
Then they were for show. Nobody was actually using them.
And of course, some Henry rifles too. Yeah.
Which you like better, working with the pistols or the rifles?
I mean, I like using the rifles a little more. I think they're fun. I love the lever actions, but other than that, I like a regular peacemaker for just shooting with. Honestly, like that's my bread and butter.
Wow, really? How good are you?
So far, I find no basis with something weird with like Sarah and Seth, but you know, who knows? Maybe when the defense goes, we'll change our mind. But I don't know. So far, I don't really see shit. Yeah, it was really weird for her to throw the dummies in the trash, but there's no other evidence to support their claims. You know.
You know, I'm getting really pretty good at
Got another week to go.
My dad's been teaching me, so I'm like...
Sorry, I said we'll wait and see. We got another week to go. I forgot the audio is like kind of like bleh.
I'm getting pretty fast, and you know, when your dad like looks at you and he like makes a face and he's like, "That was pretty fast." Like, you know, you're getting fast. You know?
If you want to impress your dad with how good you've got, go out there and take a washer.
Yeah, there you go.
And throw it up in the air and say and shoot it and say, "See, Dad, I shot right through the hole."
That's right. What's the first?
Just as another take on that, Hannah. I've had that face from your father, but the other way, where he looks at me like, "God, there's just no hope for this person."
And as a father, I have had both faces.
Yeah, I wonder what her dad, Thel Reed, thinks of this entire thing now. I don't know.
I love when he makes that face too. That's one of my favorite faces to get out of him.
Well, you know, what you were telling me about that movie reminds me of another movie. It was a Western, but it had Smokey the Bear in it. And he went into the saloon and he shot this guy. And the bartender said, "Smokey, why did you shoot that guy?" He says, "That's the fellow that shot my paw."
Yeah. Well, and so, you know, there was actually something cool that happened on this. Well, something that I thought was cool is that one of the actors, I noticed, he was, like, really good and pretty, like, well-versed with the firearms. And I guess he's from Wyoming. Mm-hmm. But then later on I found out that he's also working with my dad currently on Yellowstone 1883. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool because, like, an actor that I was working with and training was also working with my dad at the same time.
Cool. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I got to compare notes a little bit, and I was like, "So what's the difference, man? Like, what did I not teach anything that he did?" And he was like, "Honestly, it's like pretty word for word, you know." Mm-hmm. I teach pretty much exactly the same way my dad does, I guess, which is good because my dad's thebomb.com.
When does the when's the scheduled release for this movie?
You know, I'm not entirely sure. I would bet we just got done filming. They're getting they're doing something with the film festival this next week. If you look it up online, it says that they're like, people are able to buy into it at the film festival or something this next week. But
He was saying it's been sabotage, not his poor Hannah's fault. Right. But I do wonder if he's changed his mind since then. Because how many times have we seen parents go on interviews and say things, and then later on they realize that they were wrong as fuck. And they're just like, they probably thought to themselves, man, I should not have done an interview. I should have just kept my mouth shut.
What was the name of the movie again for folks listening?
Thanks, Kat.
What's the name of the movie again for the folks that are listening?
The Old Way.
The Old Way, starring Nicolas Cage.
Starring Nicolas Cage and Noah LaGrosse and Ryan Armstrong.
How's the livestock on that show?
The horses?
Yeah, that's my.
They were all right. They were.
I feel like they're running out of questions. Hold on. Let's see. What else is there?
Well, that can be a problem. Loads on this shot, and other horses would go bananas when you.
Just finished a film up in the mountains just northwest of Tucson. Portfolio that achieved there.
Oh,
Well, you have to show them how to do the whole trigger thing. They're just usually all like, and you have to pull back the hammer every time. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you got to do. And show them how to put on their holster. Yeah, like some guys come to me and they know absolutely nothing about gun belts and stuff like that, which is totally understandable. So I have to teach them how to put on their belt, which seems pretty funny to say when you put it that way. And then I have to just show them how to hold it straight, make it look like they're aiming at something. And also you have to teach them about the recoil because these blanks don't really have regular pushback that regular bullets do. So I always try to, in order to make it look more realistic, tell the actors to create a little bit of recoil with their wrist.
Well, let me ask you this then, because this is one of the things that people sometimes see it and they think it's an affectation, but you'll see a guy fire the gun and then he'll throw the gun back up and then bring down, and they don't realize that on the older guns you did that to clear it.
Yeah, to clear the cap.
Yeah,
because it was a cap and ball.
And and that's those are the kind of little details that I think makes a lot of difference for me, because unless they're shooting a peacemaker with a cartridge in it, then.
Yeah. So, Hannah, do you own any of your own firearms?
Yeah, my dad got me a peacemaker for Christmas.
Cool.
Yeah, and I have a Walter P22 as well. Yeah, I'm looking into getting a 9mm Ruger too.
Oh, sweet. I got a Walther P38, real low number, but my dad got, and I inherited.
I think in one of the police interviews, she said that she was getting her concealed carry permit approved, or in the works of that.
And that is one of the sweetest guns I've ever owned.
Do you like shooting black powder?
I mean, I haven't shot a lot of it, but usually I just go with I just go with cartridges usually.
Okay.
Let me throw you a curve here.
I like black powder. That's
Let me throw you a curve because it just dawned on me. I've been watching Forged in Fire a lot lately. A lot of cops thing. Because it just
Absolutely.
Want to talk about some of the movies that you apprenticed with him? That would be interesting. Your experiences and what he taught you and what you taught him.
Yeah, he took me from being completely green and taught me everything that I know so far, and by all means I'm still learning. But yeah, Dad has taught me everything, but a lot of things, I kind of just caught on by myself and everything, just observation, watching him do things, or just knowing how the firearms work. I think loading blanks was the scariest thing to me because I was like, oh, I don't know anything about it. But, he taught me that, and eventually by the time I was trying to figure out how to make a specific blank go when you want it to, rather than it hitting the empty cylinders and everything, figured that out on my own.
Explain that process.
So normally if you you open the loading gate, you put the bullet in, you have to put it right around to right before, you have to bring that blank all the way around to right before the cylinder, so then that way the next time someone
somebody from props would come and take the gun away from you, and then the next time you needed it, they'd come and bring it back to you. And it would get a little crazy at times because they were treating everybody like they never had a gun before, which I can understand.
That's probably the safest thing to do, too.
Oh, it is, but you know, but-
that's pretty much just the standard of it now.
Yeah.
But I'm usually pretty nice to people. I'll just stand right by them,
Yeah.
get it out, and because a lot of actors haven't worked with them, and they also they have to worry about acting and
Yeah.
not about.
Wait, what? Hold on a second. I feel like that was kind of important.
Because when I started, this was like 1964, 65, and you'd go out on a job, and in fact, a lot of shows I would actually take my own firearm out there if I knew the prop master, and a lot of us would do that, and we'd just have our own rigs and carry them, and throw them in the back. If you couldn't use them, we'd put them back underneath the truck seat or something. But there was nobody. They just sometimes they just give you a pocket full of cartridges, blanks, always the old 5 and 1, and then half loads, quarter loads, depending on what they needed. But nowadays it's like, because I think the last thing I worked on, it was like you'd do a shot, and then somebody from props would come and take the gun away from you, and then the next time you needed it, they'd come and bring it back to you, and it would get a little crazy at times because they were treating everybody like they never had a gun before, which I can understand.
That's probably the safest thing to do.
Right, and that's what the people in the movie set were saying. They're like, oh, it's kind of weird for the armorer to let these people hang on to their guns when the scene is over. Usually what I've seen is that an armorer comes back, takes the guns away, and that's it.
Do too.
Oh, it is, but
That's pretty much just the standard of it now.
Yeah.
But I'm usually pretty nice to people. I'll just stand right by them,
Let them hang on to their guns, play around with it.
get it out, and because a lot of actors haven't worked with them, and they also they have to worry about acting and not about loading the gun and everything. So that's where to make it safe. If people are proficient with their own guns, I still load them anyways. But
Yeah, the person who says they're proficient is sometimes the one who is the least safe.
That's the same guy that says I can ride.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh God, it's like Hannah right there, saying she's so proficient with guns, but at the same time, being the least safe, and that led to 3 discharges on a set that she's working on the next one.
Yeah, exactly. And oh yeah.
Todd,
other than that, my dad's been teaching me mostly about I think the most important thing he's taught me is just taking care of guns and how to clean them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also in the process of, because what's really great about my dad is if something breaks on set, he can absolutely fix it. He's a
Right.
wizard with guns. So what I'm trying to learn now is the ins and outs of all the guns and how to
Gunsmithing.
fix them.
do you think you might move on to gunsmithing?
Not entirely, not as a permanent thing, but I definitely, it helps to know some stuff like
Sure.
that when you're on set and something messes up,
Todd, what do you got?
Well, how to make their film, how to make.
Female perspective into it too.
Yeah, that's
Most
great.
excellent. All right, we
Have
got
you had, Hannah, any pushback from females? I know you have from males, but have females looked at you and going, "What are you doing? You're making it hard for us pretty ones." By the way, you're very attractive. So, but for us pretty ones in the high heels, we don't get to.
What kind of question is this? Where are we going with this?
We don't get to use those toys anymore.
Well, no, I don't think I really have too much pushback from other females in the industry. I think what I've really noticed about other women in the industry is that we're all very strong and we're all very confident in what we do, and someone who is so focused on what they're doing.
Should I give him a chance? Hold on. Maybe he worded it a little bit better earlier.
Well,
It's the truth, Hannah. I mean, you're.
When you're on set and something messes up,
Todd.
Yeah, that's pretty much just the standard of it now.
Yeah.
But I'm usually pretty nice to people anyways. I think the most important thing he's taught me is just taking care of guns. That he's thing, but I
kind of watched her grow up from afar. When her dad was living with me, and we're running around together for those few years, and it's amazing to me that I sit here and listen to her, and she's talking about guns and telling actors, you move over there, and directors how to make their film, and back then, every time he'd say to me, "Okay, buddy, where's that toy store again? Because I gotta find something for Hannah. I can't go home with little Miss Hannah Reed without a toy." And she's now, directing traffic on films and telling all these hotshots where to go and what to do. And I think it's amazing. Surreal. And I think, it's the truth, Hannah. I mean, you're first of all, you're very articulate and eloquent, and you know what you're talking about. And I think it's such a pleasure to listen to you talk about this, because you're the only female armorer that I know of in the industry, period.
Okay. You're just a proud Uncle
and
Todd.
I think it's a great honor for our show to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I love doing what I do, and I like bringing like a fresh female perspective into it too.
Yeah, that's
most
great.
Excellent. All right,
have you had, Hannah, any pushback from females? I know you have from males, but have females looked at you and going, "What are you doing? You're making it hard for us pretty ones." By the way, you're very attractive. So, but for us pretty ones in the high heels, we don't get to use those toys anymore.
Well, no, I don't think.
I actually have no idea what he's asking. Maybe he just has a hard time with wording his questions correctly. I don't know what he was trying to ask. I think he was trying to say that, like, hey, like, do you get pushback from other women because you're like a woman doing an armor job, and women typically don't do armor jobs and play with guns? I don't know if that was the direction he was trying to go, but I felt like she probably didn't know what the fuck he was saying either, and so she just gave him like a pretty generic, like, good response. I think her response was pretty good.
I don't really have too much pushback from other females in the industry. I think what I've really noticed about other women in the industry is that, like, we're all very strong and we're all very confident in what we do, and, like, someone who is so focused on what they're doing with themselves has no reason to be worried about what other women are doing, And I've noticed, like, it's usually outside.
And she does a good job at answering that question, because she was probably like, what the fuck are you asking me?
Outside of work, yeah, all the time. But in work, like, I think it's really cool that all these girls are just so motivated to do what they love and to do it well that they don't even worry about what I'm doing.
Well, it sounds great that the professionalism in the business today, from the men and the women, that they're able
Honestly, I had some issues with men being professional.
Oh,
on
really?
The last
Tell
one.
us.
I was pretty, it was kind of upsetting a little bit, because it was probably my first time on set without my dad. And yeah, I will say there was a little bit of sexual harassment going on with me. Yeah, I won't really get into
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I could totally see that.
the details of it, but all I can say is that, like, it's very disappointing to see another member of the crew disrespect females that just have done nothing but earned respect during the set. But I will say this doesn't really happen a lot, but
Oh, no, Kat, I think a lot of people are there with you. I think a lot of people are like, dude, the fucking Rust show or the Rust movie set, it just seems like a shit show in terms of there were a lot of things that were happening that shouldn't have happened. Things should have been taken more seriously, I guess, but people were kind of just going with the flow. But yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, ultimately, it's like her job, because that's like her job as an armorer. She's the one who said that she loaded the ammo into the gun. She was the one who gave the gun to Alec Baldwin, or the AD, whoever the fuck she gave it to. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people had the feeling that there's a lot of weird things happening on the Rust set. Like, they didn't really care about safety, and safety was just like secondary. But I don't know. But then we hear from like Joel Souza, and then we hear from like the other people who are like, a little bit higher up, that made it seem like, oh, it's just normal for movies to be like this, under stress, under pressure, being in a rush. It just happens, right? But then when you hear from like all the other people that are like surrounding, they just felt like it just wasn't safe. And yeah,
it's just unfortunate, because I really thought that was kind of over with, especially after Weinstein and everything, you know?
Yeah.
Well, human nature is what it is, and there's unfortunately a lot of bore hogs out there that have no respect for anybody, especially women.
Or anything. And on that note, we've got to do our next commercial break.
The guy's like, you know what? Let's do a commercial break. Okay, let's do a commercial break. I think the guy was trying to ask a question, and then he just asked in like what a very horrible way. I don't know if he meant anything by it. I just think he just had a horrible way of asking the question. And so now he's like, oh, let's go to commercial break, please. Commercial break, let's go.
Anna, hang on. This is Emil Franzi's voice, Arizona, since 1.com. Cattle
Everything.
Just the
write a book about it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm just stepping off of one feature. I get to go home for 2 weeks, and then I'll be stepping back on to Butcher's Crossing back here in Montana.
Yeah, wow. That's beautiful country. I have a good friend of mine lived up in Livingston. He was
enjoy on a 340.
No,
a brace.
No, was
and that was it's your dad.
My 5th grade classes for about 2 weeks, and I just got to run around on the set of 310, and I think that one time that I went out to set when I was younger just like made me instantly be like, I want to do movies when I'm older.
Oh, cool.
And so I used to run around that set and like hold up Crafty with little plastic guns and everything and be like, give me your pistachios, you know?
So Todd, did you
that
get...
sounds like Todd on Monty Walsh.
Yeah, so Todd, did you get that feeling when you ran around the set on Monty Walsh?
Well, I thought just be the thumbs up like...
We all got together and said, we missed him.
He did. We're standing.
Commercial break here.
Another commercial break.
Museum of
like being work.
So Hannah, do you you know, in a perfect world, do you get to grow and do other things in the movie business, or do you just want to be the best armorer, male or female, period there is?
I don't do anything unless I'm the best at it, really. So
good for you.
Yeah, I'm very competitive, and I.
Oh boy. Oh god, the timing of this is so unfortunate.
Besides Django, any other?
Yeah.
In a perfect world, do you get to grow and do other things in the movie business, or do you just want to be the best armorer, male or female, period there is?
I don't do anything unless I'm the best at it, really. So
good for you.
Good.
Yeah, I'm very competitive, and I hope to grow to the point where I'm pretty much just an untouchable person that has all the knowledge of everything. And I think I have a pretty good support system and really good mentors and everything. Like, working under this next armor is just going to help me too, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All the experience you get is always, there's no bad experience. It's
I mean, it's going to help her, all right. She for sure will never forget these mistakes.
Just bad.
It's learning from experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye, Morgan.
Yeah, that, and I do like working with the little girls and everything on set, and I like teaching them about guns, and I think the best part about my job is just showing people who are normally kind of freaked out by guns, like how safe they can be and how they're not really problematic unless put in the wrong hands.
It's a tool. That's all it is.
Yeah,
there's
so
no
for
bad
me, a lot of
guns.
it
There's
is
just bad
create-
people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of it for me is just being able to show the world, like, you know, guns are awesome, and, you know.
You got it. Hannah Reed, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate it very much.
6 weeks after this podcast, well, podcast was posted on September 11th. Who knows when they filmed it, I guess, right? But 6 weeks after they aired this podcast, the accident of the Russ movie set happened. Oh, man. Crazy. She changed the world, all right. ... Yeah, I mean, at least, hopefully, there will be a lot of industry changes as a result of this. Oh, man. Anyways, I mean, how often do you hear someone that's like inexperienced, you know, who like to talk up their skills, right? I think it's just like an arrogance thing. You know, when you're young, you're really arrogant and you think you know everything, but you really fucking don't. Oh boy. All right. Well, we listened to that podcast. That was the Old West something podcast. What was it called? I don't know where it went. All right, it's called whatever, the Old West podcast. Anyways, yeah, that was nice listening to it. If you guys find anything else like that, let me know, and then we can listen to it on the stream together. But yeah, it's time for me to go eat. Usually when I get really hungry, it's hard for me to talk and focus. I need to go eat, guys. I'm hungry. All right, y'all. I hope you guys have a good one. Take care. Have a good, happy Friday. I will see you guys on Monday. Although on Monday I might be in San Diego, or is it on Tuesday? But anyways, we'll be streaming at a hotel or something like that. But I look forward to seeing you guys. Apparently, the state prosecutor said that they are looking forward to doing closing arguments next Thursday on the 7th, meaning the jury will deliberate then on Friday. And honestly, I just feel like this shouldn't take long for the jury to deliberate, but who knows? The defense, maybe they got something up their sleeves, but so far, the cross-examination of Sarah Zachary was pretty disappointing. I thought there was going to be a lot more information that was going to be revealed that was going to change her mind into thinking, hey, maybe there was sabotage on the set. Maybe they were doing some weird things in the background, da-da-da-da, and all that stuff, you know, dun, dun, dun. But I don't know. So far, I just don't think there's not really a lot of evidence that supports that. The only thing that would support that would be Sarah Zachary telling law enforcement that she threw the dummies away. But yeah, I don't know. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Hope you guys take care. The new Final Fantasy VII game is out. I kind of want to play it, but I haven't been to GameStop yet to go buy it. So I don't know. I might stream on Twitch. I might be on there. If you guys want to check out for the video game stuff, feel free. I dual stream on Twitch and on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being on here. Okay, thanks for chatting with me. Thanks for lurking. And what's for dinner? Well, I'm gonna eat a very late lunch, okay, because I'm starving. Guilty. All the books throw a matter. Also, I started reading Lord of the Rings. Tell me why we meet Aragorn at like 50% in of the book. The first 50% of the book is not even in the movie, well, except when they're in the Shire. But we meet Aragorn at like 50% of the book, and I'm like, wait, what? Now I'm just so confused. I don't know. Anyways. If you guys have any of the books to recommend, let me know. Someone here, I don't know if you're in my chat right now, but someone here recommended this this book. It was called The Chain or something. I don't know if you're in my chat or not, but I finished it like a couple weeks ago. So I just want to let you know that I took your recommendation and I finished it. But I don't know who recommended it to me. It was a very interesting book. Nerd talk or gay. I know. All right, y'all. I hope you guys have a good one, and I will see y'all soon, whether if it's on Twitch or on YouTube. Don't forget to like.